You're dirt. We think you're dirt, Paul.
Who is we?
The West, all the superpowers, everything you believe in, Paul. They think you're dirt. They think you're dumb. You're worthless.
I'm afraid I don't understand what you are saying, sir.
Oh, come on, don't bullshit me, Paul. You're the smartest man here. You got them all eating out of your hands. You could own this freaking hotel, except for one thing. You're black. You're not even a nigger. You're an African.
Now, our next story focuses on the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. This U.S. initiative has provided duty-free access for African goods to the American market for years. But the plan expired on the 30th of September, raising concerns that President Donald Trump's administration may not renew it. However, officials have reportedly hinted at a one-year extension. According to reports, a White House official has said that the Trump administration supports a one-year extension of AGOA. Since taking office in January, the administration had not publicly stated a position on the act. AGOA has been a landmark trade agreement for 25 years, granting duty-free access to the U.S. market for several African products. At least 32 African nations have been eligible for preferential treatment under the program. Top exports include crude oil, motor vehicles, apparel, jewelry, citrus fruits, and more. South Africa has been the top beneficiary, followed by Nigeria and Kenya. AGOA has also been instrumental in job creation across sectors. For example, in Kenya, approximately 66,000 workers are employed in the apparel sector. In Lesotho, around 45,000 workers are in the apparel industry, and in South Africa, about 30,000 workers are in the automotive sector. So the expiration of AGOA puts thousands of jobs and businesses at risk. Last-ditch talks on the future of AGOA have been reportedly taking place in Washington. Lesotho's trade minister said last week that the United States plans to extend it by a year. African business representatives have also received assurances that AGOA could be renewed retroactively in November. But even as top Trump administration officials have given off-the-record assurances to African leaders, the extension has not yet been implemented and uncertainty remains. President Trump's tariff policies have further plunged the fate of AGOA into doubt. Several African nations face high reciprocal tariffs, including South Africa, the top beneficiary. Once AGOA lapses, African countries lose their preferential status and their exports fall back under standard U.S. tariffs. African governments, manufacturers, and trade unions are lobbying the U.S. administration for a temporary extension. The Kenyan President, William Ruto, last week said he is seeking a 5-year extension of AGOA. He also said he is seeking a bilateral trade pact with the U.S. by the end of this year.
I will be having a conversation later this evening with Secretary Rubio, and one of the push that I will be asking him is for the U.S. To consider seriously renewing and extending AGOA for at least a minimum of 5 years, because it is a platform that connects Africa and the U.S. in a very fundamental way. And it can go a long way in solving some of the trade deficits and challenges that exist at the moment, especially in the context of where the world is going. We believe that AGOA gives both Africa and the U.S. a best chance to expand and deepen trade between the United States and Africa.
The Trump administration has imposed a 10% tariff on Kenyan goods. The East African nation has been a leading exporter of textiles and apparel, which make up more than 90% of its AGOA exports. This sector has been vital for the country's export processing zones, creating several jobs primarily benefiting women and young people. With AGOA now expired, thousands of workers across Africa face uncertainty about their future.
Job, these opportunities we are talking about directly touches the livelihood of a normal citizen of that particular country. And it's not a one person, it is a hundreds, it's a millions of people. So the world need to really actually sit down, especially the U.S. government need to sit down and rethink about this livelihood.
This tariff thing now that has been imposed by Trump, it's going to have a negative effect in our operations. Because now the price that we are selling the cane to the outside countries, it's going to be more. We have to have 30% more of the price, of which the customers will have to compare now which one is cheaper. Eventually they'll go for a cheaper price, and then it will affect us. They won't buy our sugar.
This job has played a very big role in my family. If I can just say, since I was employed here, my kids were still young, but up to now, I've educated them. The firstborn have just completed the university level last year, and others are in colleges, so it means a lot to me. Yeah.
With the expiration of AGOA, the future of thousands of such African workers hangs in the balance. Will the Trump administration move to extend the initiative and secure jobs, or leave exporters facing higher tariffs and uncertainty? We will keep you updated.
Mr. Doe, going on in your country right now in Vietnam is 4,000 little kids who are in quarantine camps away from their parents because of this fake scamdemic. And you come to my country and you act like one of these communist parasites. I ask you to go the back to Vietnam.
Lord. New at 11, a local restaurant with multiple locations in our area is accused of discriminating against some of its customers. NBC4's Darsha Phillips is in the Melrose district for us tonight. Darsha.
Yeah, Carolyn, Great White here on Melrose, receiving a lot of backlash after an Asian patron said that she and other people of color were discriminated against and segregated to one portion of the restaurant. Now, dozens of people posting online saying they had similar experiences at the Great White and its other locations.
Hi guys, I'm at Great White, and I don't know if it's just me, but they put all Asians in one corner.
Cassidy Cho and her boyfriend dined at Great White Melrose on Saturday, September 27th, when she says she noticed the restaurant was seating all of the patrons who appeared to be Asian in one section of the restaurant.
The new party just came. Hello.
Video she posted to social media documenting her experience got thousands of views and comments. And Cassidy says she quickly realized her experience wasn't unique.
And everybody in the comments were like, no, like that happened to us. And I think there were so many people coming to light and saying that's a shared experience that we've had.
Numerous reviews online for Great White Melrose and their other locations also had comments going back years alleging that people of color were discriminated against. And so many new comments flooded in after Cassidy's video that some sites had to temporarily restrict patrons from leaving their reviews. Some of those comments were answered saying that Great White does not tolerate acts of discrimination at any of their establishments. However, NBC4 tracked down former employees who say this was part of the management culture.
They were very direct about telling me to make sure I limit the amount of ethnic people that are coming in.
Sarah Breyer says she worked for Grand Blanco in Venice Beach in 2023 when it was owned by Sam Trude and Sam Cooper, the co-founders of the Great White Restaurants. She says her management directed her to treat people of color differently.
If Asian guests came in, we were told to seat them outside. Like, they never got an inside table.
Montana Pine also says she worked at Grand Blanco as a server when Sarah was a host there.
We were instructed to tell people that the restaurant was at capacity when, certain demographics came in that they did not want in the restaurant.
Montana quit a year ago. Both women said it was all too much to deal with.
It was so horrible because, I knew everything that I was a part of was wrong.
Gran Blanco posted this on its Instagram account Thursday. We'd like to share that Gran Blanco is now under new ownership and management as of June 1st, 2025. We're an independently, locally operated business committed to creating a welcoming space for everyone in the community. NBC4 also reached out to Great White and offered them a chance to respond on camera. We received this statement. Great White is named after a shark. It has nothing to do with race. Any notion that we have mistreated customers or employees or seated people based on their ethnicity is absolutely outrageous and completely false. Everyone is welcome here. But for Cassidy, she says she experienced this firsthand. And while Great White was once a favorite spot of hers, she won't be eating there again.
If those are the type of behaviors that they're pushing forward, I don't think it's type of people that I also want to support. So I don't think I'll be going back.
And Great White has locations in Venice Beach, Brentwood, Larchmont, and here in West Hollywood. Reporting live, I'm Darsha Phillips, NBC4 News.
I was doing good, but I did every single thing I could think to do. I was really good. I was really good. I was good. I was really good. I ain't wanting to be fat like that. I do not want my baby to be fat like that because I know a black man in America, you can't be like that. I try to.
California is making history as the first state in the nation to ban ultra-processed food from school lunches.
Filled with sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, these foods have been linked to a number of health issues, including obesity, diabetes, and heart disease.
CBS 8's Richard Allen joins us in studio tonight with more on how this new law will be rolled out. And Richard, it definitely won't be immediate.
Well, that's right, Marcella. It will be phased in over the next decade throughout schools here in California. Now, we're talking about ultra-processed foods, which often include artificial flavors and colors, as well as high levels of saturated sodium, fat, or sugar. Foods that are high in calories, but low in nutritional value.
I'm surprised it took this long.
For many parents, California's plan to eventually get rid of ultra-processed foods from school meals is a no-brainer.
There's too much crap in the foods now, so I don't think that they should have it at all.
I think it's a good idea. I think kids need to eat more healthy, but I don't think it's a good idea to do it all at once.
In fact, this will be a gradual process, with schools in the state beginning to phase out ultra-processed foods in 2029, with a complete ban in place by 2035.
Here in California, we are actually doing the work to protect our kids' health.
State Assembly member Jesse Gabriel authored this legislation.
AB 1264 will provide the first ever legal definition of what constitutes an ultra-processed food. And it will establish a science-based framework to remove the most dangerous ultra-processed foods from our schools.
Over the next few years, the California Department of Health will work to identify which ultra-processed ingredients are linked to health problems to determine exactly which foods are eventually banned.
Any steps taken to help the health of our children in general is more than welcome.
Dr. Ahmad Beylouni is chief of pediatrics at Sharp Chula Vista.
There's so many people that just don't have the resources necessary to feed their kids healthy foods, and a lot of people rely on school lunches.
Dr. Beylouni says studies have shown ultra-processed foods have not only been linked to health issues like obesity and heart disease, but also poor academic performance and mental health issues. He also points to new data from the CDC that shows that 1/3 of kids above age 12 are pre-diabetic, another condition linked to ultra-processed foods.
It's one of the tougher issues to solve because that issue starts with nutrition. And unless you really address kids' nutrition, you're not going to crack this problem.
Dr. Beylouni says he hopes this legislation here in California motivates other states to follow suit.
Ultimately, this is something hopefully we can start doing as a country.
And this legislation is receiving pushback from some food and beverage manufacturers who say this law runs the risk of stigmatizing some processed foods like canned fruits or vegetables that have preservatives in them. But the supporters of the legislation say that the law does not ban foods per se. Instead, it bans the harmful ingredients in those foods.
So a lot of schools, of course, that we're dealing with. So how and who's going to determine what ingredients are harmful?
Yeah, it's a long process. It's the California Department of Public Health that will have the task over the next few years of examining these ingredients, these additives, these preservatives, to determine which ones are the most harmful. And that's exactly why it's going to take so long to roll this out. It doesn't start until 2029, and the full ban doesn't complete until 2035, so 10 years from now.
Yeah, definitely an evolving
Yes.
area, and people are very interested in having less of those chemicals in their bodies.
Exactly.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
White people kill for fun.
Tonight, the man on your screen, Dylan Lambert, is facing charges in connection to a bizarre crime in South City. Police accuse Lambert of launching blow darts at unsuspecting victims. Investigators say victims were targeted at random in separate attacks, one on Hampton Avenue and another along a busy stretch of Chippewa. Tonight, our Sean Logging is hearing from one of the couples who found themselves at the center of this curious crime.
It was a nice night out Wednesday to a favorite restaurant for Macy Owen and Justin Jacob. But their night was interrupted when they were about to cross the street to get to their car.
I was carrying my to-go box, and all of a sudden we both heard just this loud pop, and I felt the to-go box shift in my hands. And I thought maybe just the cardboard was in wrong or something, but we looked down and there was something sticking out of the box.
This on Hampton Ave in Southampton. The two didn't know what the object was at first.
It was pretty good size, So, and again, like she's saying, we were looking around trying to figure out where it came from.
But no one else was around except the car that passed.
But soon learning it was a 4-inch long metal blowgun dart.
It felt weird, and yeah, once we figured it out, that was definitely a little scarier, and that's when we called the non-emergency line.
Thursday night, St. Louis police say not far away on Chippewa Street in the St. Louis Hills neighborhood, another incident. Police say a dart hit one man in the leg outside of a restaurant, but he was not seriously hurt.
I felt really bad that this happened again so soon, but I am grateful that the cops were aware because they were able to make a quick arrest.
Security video, police say, led to identifying the suspect as Dylan Lambert, a fast food delivery driver who had just made a delivery. He is facing 2 counts each of second-degree assault and armed criminal action.
Thank God it's not like a bullet or something, but it's very strange.
According to court documents, when police found Lambert in his car, they found 30 blowgun darts, the blowgun, and a loaded pistol.
We did not know that until now.
That is news
to us.
Court filings Friday say that Lambert admitted to investigators he drove around shooting the darts at street signs and other objects. Macy and Justin say it's a relief this was solved quickly.
Who knows how many times he's done it, right?
And
Like
just
if it missed us,
yeah.
we would have no idea.
Friday, a judge denied Lambert bond. In St. Louis, Sean Logging, First Alert 4.
So be careful how you walk. Now the playground is the danger zone.
The father of a student who was fatally shot outside Seattle's Garfield High School Thursday is calling for justice for his son. Police say Amar Murphy, a running back for the school's varsity football team, was attempting to break up a fight between 2 boys when one of the boys pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times. The Seattle Times reports police have not yet identified the shooter.
I always noticed that, after something bad happens, after there's a shooting or after one of our students loses their life, no matter which group you're in, it's always the same feeling. Every single time it just gets to you more, and it feels more inevitable.
It's scary to think about what's going to happen if I walk out the school, what's going to happen if I'm trying to get lunch or if I'm trying to get home.
Princess Green was just finishing up her sophomore year when the shooting happened in 2024.
Going into my junior year, I didn't really want to come back to Garfield. It was kind of just to be honest, it was the best of my bad options.
Green and Tran are among the group of students who came together for a project to address the issues of mental health and gun violence.
Our good friend Mason said we should make a documentary about. We're like, that's kind of a good idea.
The documentary is called True Dogs, named after a cheer often heard at the school's pep rallies. To help students reclaim Garfield's identity, they interviewed people who had been staff at the school for a long time, who had seen Garfield in better days.
You've been here for so long, and you've seen the ups and downs of Garfield. Mm-hmm. What was the school like back then?
Oh, it's a lot of spirit during my time in the 80s. Our assemblies, we had singers, performers. It was a lot of fun.
gonna start rolling. Quiet on set, please.
The goal of this project is to reignite the spirit of Garfield, bring the community together, and also change the perception of Garfield.
Let everybody know our voices and how we actually feel.
Helping them with this project was filmmaker Brooke Montgomery, whose daughter also attends Garfield. Montgomery looked at the epidemic of youth violence and felt a sense of helplessness.
I kept seeing my daughter and her friends and the pain and the struggle they were going through. And I was like, I have to participate somehow. I make films, I make movies, I make videos. Maybe I can lend my skill.
Montgomery sat down with the students and started to storyboard what the film would look like.
We were with them for over 6 months. And so you get to watch how people move through traumatic events. I don't think you could find a parent who has a kid in high school or, younger grade in this country who hasn't spent, dozens and dozens of times worrying about their child and gun violence.
As Montgomery and the students continued working on the documentary last spring, another Garfield student lost his life.
18-year-old Salvador Granillo, who goes by Junior, was visiting Yakima over Easter weekend where his girlfriend goes to college. They were at a house party when deputies say an argument led to gunfire. According to new court documents, witnesses told police the fight...
Even if you didn't know Junior, you felt it when he was gone.
Colby Tran says the loss of Junior left a big hole in the community.
He was in my business math class, and we just left his chair there for the rest of the year. It was because no one can fill that hole that Junior left. He brought a smile to everyone's face.
It was affecting Tran to the point where he wasn't sure if he wanted to stay involved with the documentary. Princess Green understands how he felt.
How do we push past from gun violence, but it's hard to keep going when you're constantly just having to experience that. And so that's something that we see in the documentary in real time.
Dr. Ben Danielson is former medical director of the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic in Seattle's Central District. He now runs a youth advocacy nonprofit called Ashe Center. He's one of the producers of True Dogs.
It's kind of a documentary about a documentary. It's about a process of watching people transform by being engaged and involved in something. And it doesn't try to make for perfect outcomes, happy endings. It makes for real life experiences. It doesn't shy away from pain because we cannot talk about this if we can't also talk about the painful parts.
Danielson says one of the most important things he learned from the process of making this film is how teenagers want adults in their lives.
They identified from the beginning that a lot of this is about the ways in which adults need to show up in their lives. Adults had let them down. We, all of us, I have to own that, you have to own that. We have let young people down. And until we come to grips with understanding our responsibility, our role, our opportunity, the amazing things that can happen by being in support of these young, brilliant people, we're just never going to make progress until we do that.
As production wraps up on the documentary, Princess Green has started her senior year at Garfield. Colby Tran enters Seattle U as a freshman. What are some of the resources that you either have or would want at Garfield in terms of if a student is struggling with their mental health, going through some issues that they have to lean on that might divert them away from committing an act of violence?
For me, I've always seen mentoring programs as a good way to bring community, but also help kind of be in a space to talk about your feelings.
I think what we need is all year support and really clear this is a space where you can go just to let your feelings out.
Garfield is not the only high school in Western Washington that's had to cope with the effects of gun violence. There was a student fatally shot at Ingram High School in Seattle in 2022. In 2024, a Kamiak High School student was arrested in connection with the shooting death of a 13-year-old at Alderwood Mall in Linwood. This year brought the shooting death of a Mount Tahoma High School student in Tacoma and a shooting outside Tacoma's Lincoln High School. In the coming days here at KNKX, we'll visit with 2 adults in our region who have started programs to try and prevent youth violence. You can listen to our series at knkx.org.
A terrible thing to waste. Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind. Written by Harriet A. Washington.
Released by Johns Hopkins University shows a higher cancer risk in industrial areas spanning from Baton Rouge to New Orleans than those reported in an EPA assessment.
News 2's Haley Jefferson spoke with environmental activists about what this could mean moving forward.
Michael, Sylvia, several organizations advocate for residents living in what is deemed Cancer Alley. Some of them tell me the results of this study are shocking, while others say they're simply not surprised.
American citizens are being exposed to cancer-causing pollutants in 2025, right here, right now, in Louisiana, and something needs to be done.
A new study released by Johns Hopkins University on Monday revealed data on the cancer risk in industrial areas stretching from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, referred to by some as Cancer Alley. Researchers measured 17 hazardous air pollutants and identified an estimated cancer risk in 15 census tracts along a 50-mile stretch. 14 of those tracts had a cancer risk higher than the Environment Protection Agency's 2020 assessment.
I'm happy that it's being exposed of what's actually happening.
Shamira Levine Davey is the executive assistant of Rise St. James, an organization that fights for environmental justice. She says she is not surprised by the report.
This puts science attached to it for the people who only want to believe science and not our stories.
The study shows that chemical ethylene oxide is the largest contributor to the total cancer risk.
There's an opportunity really for the state to look at this and say, what can we do to continue making sure that we're not harming our own citizens in Louisiana?
Bria Calvin, project manager with the Louisiana Environmental Defense Fund, says this data gives them an opportunity to see where else they can step in to continue to highlight what's going on in Cancer Alley.
What does, I think, inspire us here is where else can we step in to continue to highlight where there are some gaps, whether it's actually in the data and the research and overall.
We reached out to the Louisiana Chemical Association and LDEQ for comment on the study, but have not received a response yet. Sylvia.
Haley, thank you.
And then I got into Memphis, and some began to say the threats, or talk about the threats that were out. What would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers.
For WKNO News, I'm Christopher Blank. Concerns over the Tennessee National Guard have largely preoccupied Memphis as Trump's crime-fighting task force gets underway. But one agency is here with a specific target in mind: immigrants. With us to talk about how the mission of ICE raises particular civil rights concerns is author and immigration journalist Daniel Connolly. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Daniel, we've been hearing city leaders and activists voice concerns that in a majority black city, there is a greater risk of racial profiling, especially from agencies that are not local. But a point you make in a recent column is that ICE is legally empowered to racially profile. How is that, and what does it look like on the streets?
Yeah, that's right. I did a column for the Institute for Public Service Reporting at University of Memphis, and I feel like we're paying way too much attention to the National Guard and not enough attention to ICE. And there was a Supreme Court decision September 8th. Some people in California had filed a lawsuit over the indiscriminate ICE arrests that were taking place in Los Angeles. They were doing things like going to car washes, places like that, and grabbing anyone who looked Hispanic. A lower court judge heard this lawsuit and said, you can't just grab Hispanic people as racial profiling. This case went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court lifted the injunction on September 8th and said, yeah, basically you can do racial profiling. Do they speak Spanish? Do they speak with an accent? It's A-okay to do racial profiling.
One claim being made by activists on social media is that ICE is working in tandem with state troopers. What is the benefit to teaming up with agencies that are ostensibly tasked with finding violent criminals?
There are a lot of state troopers that are part of this task force, and there's a community group called Vecindarios 901 or V901. They are saying that the state troopers are working very closely with ICE, either an ICE agent riding along with them in the vehicle or coming immediately after a traffic stop, most people, when they see a state trooper behind them, will stop. They're not going to try to run away. And it makes sense that if you're trying to do a lot of immigration arrests, working with state troopers or another law enforcement agency like that would make sense.
Does a state trooper have the authority to pull somebody over that maybe an ICE person doesn't?
Legally, it's a good question. Effectively, ICE can stop anyone who is brown for any reason. They can walk up to anyone in Memphis and say, show me your papers.
Wow. You've mentioned in your column that you're married to a legal immigrant, and you've stated that she and others here legally, people going through the process of legal immigration, are afraid. Why is that?
So my wife has a U.S. passport, and she's been carrying it with her for months. And the reason is that if she gets stopped by ICE and she cannot prove immediately that she's a citizen or a legal immigrant, they can detain her. And there have been multiple cases around the country of U.S. citizens being detained, in some cases for days, without being able to get out. Now, most of them do get out, but again, if it's my wife, it could take a day or two before we sort this out. So again, we're talking about a U.S. citizen. We're not talking about someone who's here illegally.
I've seen some of the videos. It seems that people are keeping an eye out for
Right.
where they are. Is this what's going on among the local activist community?
Yeah, so the group that I keep mentioning, B901, has a hotline, and anyone can call into the hotline and say, I've seen police officers here. In the current environment, they're getting so many reports of task force activity all the time that they are now saying they can't verify them all. Let me give you some context here, why I find this credible. In my column, I mentioned some analysis from the Associated Press of similar Trump action in Washington, and the AP said that from August into early September, the biggest category of arrests that the federal task force had made in Washington was immigration. It was more than guns or warrants and drugs combined. Unfortunately, I think as we learn more and more about what's happening in Memphis, we're going to see that that's what's occurring here, and we could be facing hundreds, if not thousands, of people being arrested and deported, many of whom do not have a criminal record other than immigration violations. And, you know, in my column, I wrote that it's really time for people to speak to their elected officials and ask your elected officials, city council members, mayors, etc., to demand answers on this and to do something about this.
And it sounds like one of those numbers the media needs to find out is how many of those daily arrests that are being reported here in Memphis are undocumented immigrants versus the violent criminals that we've been told are being taken off the streets.
That's the kind of information I would love to know. And I had made a round of inquiries yesterday to a bunch of federal agencies and the Tennessee Highway Patrol and got no answers. So it's a really critical question of who's being arrested, what are their names, what are the criminal charges. And I really hope that those of us who are like me in the media, that we're able to make some ground and find out.
Memphis journalist Daniel Connolly has covered immigration for various publications, including the Commercial Appeal and Associated Press. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is WKNO News.
I don't want to cause any problems, Lieutenant. I just want a new partner.
Oh, I understand. Your partner's a racist prick, but you don't want to stir up any bad feelings with him.
Well, he's been on the force for a long time.
17 years.
And I do have to work here, sir.
So, you don't mind that there's a racist prick on the force. You just don't want him to ride in your car.
If you need me to go on record about this, sir, I will.
That'd be great. Write a full report. Because I'm anxious to understand how an obvious bigot could have gone undetected in this department for 17 years. 11 of which he was under my personal supervision. Which doesn't speak very highly of my managerial skills. But that's not your concern. I can't wait to read it.
A metro area police chief under investigation turns in his badge. Tonight, the former Golden Valley police chief sat down with KARE 11 for the first time to share his side of the story. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Julie Nelson. Virgil Green, the embattled chief, resigned after months on leave. Jennifer Hoff joins us with what he had to say today. Jennifer?
Julie, the wide-ranging interview was nearly an hour long. Green, who was hired 3 years ago, said he was never made aware of any allegations against him until that day he was put on leave.
The Golden Valley Police Department has long been embattled, from misconduct and racism uncovered by an independent investigation leading to more than half its officers resigning, to now its police chief who quit last week.
The morale was a lot better.
First task to turn that around.
Did the decision then back in May to put you on leave come as a surprise?
It was definitely a surprise.
The city would only say it was reviewing a complaint until new documents Friday show allegations against then Chief Virgil Green for the unauthorized release of body cam video to a television station and undermining an internal investigation.
Do you feel like the two examples that the city has given are reason to have put you on leave?
No.
Green says the video was released in accordance with state law, centered around a weapon during a school fight. Green said administrators covered up, discovered only after his department got a search warrant.
I felt it was in the best interest of public safety that we did release that video that showed what those officers were dealing with that day.
Green also denies interfering with that internal investigation he says was against an officer for allegedly cheating on an exam, who he admits he did continue talking to.
There was not one piece of evidence ever presented to me and my attorneys during my interview saying that, yes, you intimidated them.
Do you feel pushed out of the Golden Valley Police Department?
I've heard people say that I was a DEI hire, which that's not true. But if this city is about supporting people of color that they do bring into the city to advance and to especially grow a department like I was growing the police department, somebody should have sat down and said, hey, Chief, we got some concerns about some things.
Now we know Green was also a police chief in Arkansas and Oklahoma and fired from both of those positions, saying his rights were violated and sued. Each suit, though, was eventually dismissed, and later a city manager and even several city council members were instead terminated in connection with those cases. Green admitting the headlines don't look good, hopeful, though, that any future employers would dig deeper into exactly what happened, particularly in those two other cases.
But did he indicate at all whether or not he's going to pursue any legal action against Golden Valley?
He said had he not left on his own terms and had he been terminated, he would have wanted some city benefits, right? And he indicated he likely would have sued to try to get those benefits back. But because he left on his own, that's all null and void.
All right, and the city now is back in the same position, looking again for a new police chief. Any word on that?
Yeah, they wouldn't comment tonight anymore on this resignation, but did say they are looking for a new police chief and said they would share soon how that whole process would play out.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yep.
The Justice Department followed President Trump's public calls and brought charges against his top rivals.
New York Attorney General Letitia James was indicted Thursday on bank fraud and false statement charges. This comes after the same office indicted former FBI Director James Comey. President Trump replaced the top federal prosecutor there with one of his former lawyers, and that's the person who secured this indictment.
NPR Justice correspondent Ryan Lucas joins us now. Ryan, so what more can you tell us about the charges against James and the prosecutors who are bringing this case on?
Well, as Layla just mentioned, James faces two charges here, one count of bank fraud, one count of false statements to a financial institution. And the indictment alleges that James bought a house in 2020 in Norfolk, Virginia, but prosecutors say she falsely claimed it as a second residence to get better terms on her mortgage. And the indictment says with those more favorable terms, she would have saved a total of almost $19,000 over the life of the loan.
Okay. Now, the indictment was handed up by a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia. So that's the same place where the former FBI Director James Comey was indicted just a few weeks ago.
That's right. And there's been a huge amount of turmoil in that U.S. Attorney's Office there in the past few weeks because of the Comey case and this case against James. The career DOJ attorney who had been the top prosecutor there had basically concluded after lengthy investigations that the evidence in the separate cases against Comey and James was too weak to bring charges. The White House didn't like that. They pushed that prosecutor out. In his place, President Trump installed Lindsay Halligan, an insurance lawyer who had once served as Trump's personal attorney, but she has no prosecutorial experience. Days later, Halligan secured the indictment against Comey, and now a few weeks on, she presented the case yesterday against James to the grand jury. Now, these two indictments against Letitia James and James Comey came after President Trump publicly called on the Justice Department to prosecute them And that has alarm bells ringing that Trump is using the Justice Department, weaponizing it to target his perceived political enemies.
Now, nationwide, people might know who James Comey is, but maybe not Letitia James as much. So what is Trump's issue with Letitia James?
So when James campaigned to become New York's Attorney General, she vowed to investigate Trump. Once she was in office, she did exactly that. Ultimately, she sued Trump and his company for inflating the value of some of their assets. She won that case in court, a massive $450 million judgment, although that financial penalty was later tossed out on appeal. But Trump has repeatedly lashed out at her. During the presidential campaign last year, for example, he said that she should be arrested and punished. And then in a social media post last month, Trump urged the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to go after James and other political foes, saying that they were guilty and that justice must be served.
Has James said anything in response to all this?
She put out a video on social media. She called the indictment a continuation of Trump's weaponization of the justice system. She also said this.
These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost.
James said she's being targeted because she did her job as New York State Attorney General. She said she stands behind her office's investigation in the civil fraud suit against Trump. And she said she's not afraid and that she is going to continue to do her job.
All right, that's NPR Justice correspondent Ryan Lucas. Ryan, thanks.
Thank you.
And now, a word from the president.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster, getting voted into the White House.
Our focus on the shutdown. Yesterday, we heard from Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune. And today, for a Democratic view, I spoke earlier with House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, welcome back to the NewsHour.
Thanks for having me on.
When you were on this program 9 days ago, you said there'd been no communication from either the White House or Republican leaders in the House or the Senate about ending this shutdown. It doesn't appear that that's changed, has it?
It has not changed, unfortunately. This is day 10 of the Trump Republican shutdown. Clearly, they don't want to reopen the government. As Democrats, we've made clear we'll sit down with anyone, anytime, any place to have a bipartisan negotiation about enacting a spending bill that makes life better for the American people, reopens the government, and addresses the Republican health care crisis. Unfortunately, House Republicans who canceled votes last week, canceled votes this week, and have now canceled votes next week remain on vacation, missing in action, and Donald Trump has shown no interest in actually trying to resolve this situation.
What do you make of these Republican proposals to partially reopen the government, funding select agencies while leaving other ones shuttered?
I think it's important for us to make sure that we actually pay our men and women in uniform in a manner consistent with what has been done in prior shutdowns. That should be priority number one at this moment. More than 1.3 million people who are on active duty and have been asked to work without pay because of the Republican refusal to address this issue. And so I think we need to take that step forward and then evaluate whatever other proposals come forward relative to reopening the government. But we have to reopen the government in a way that also addresses the Republican health care crisis and the Republicans' continued refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which is going to have a devastating impact on premiums, copays, and deductibles for tens of millions of Americans all across the country.
As we speak this afternoon, the OMB director, Russ Vought, tweeted moments ago, the rifts have begun, making good apparently on the threat of mass layoffs by the Trump administration. An OMB spokesperson says that the layoffs will be significant. Do you have a sense of which agencies would be affected, how many people would be affected? And beyond that, this is a clear power play by the administration to force the hand of Democrats. Does this play any role in your decision-making?
Donald Trump and his corrupt administration have been engaging in mass firings and layoffs of federal employees since January 20th. They've been targeting hardworking federal employees, pressuring them, dismissing them without justification, and violating the law. So this is just a continuation of the chaos, the crisis, and the confusion that we've seen during the entirety of the Trump administration. We're going to continue to stay the course as Democrats. That's what House and Senate Democrats have done together to address the situation that Republicans have created, largest cut to Medicaid in American history, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics closing all throughout America, particularly in rural parts of this country. The fact that Republicans refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, resulting in dramatically increased health care premiums for tens of millions of Americans that will cost double, triple, or quadruple what they are currently paying. Some will face medical bankruptcy. Many others will be unable to get the insurance and the access to the doctors that they need. And on top of all of that, they're targeting the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, in ways that are going to undermine the public health infrastructure in the United States of America. This has been an all-out Republican assault on the health care of the American people, which is why it needs to be decisively addressed right now, because it impacts everyone.
When you talk about Democrats and Republicans working together on health care, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, as you well know, no fan of Democrats, not typically aligned with Democrats, says she supports preserving the ACA subsidies, in large part because she says the insurance premiums of her adult children are set to skyrocket. Does that signal any real opening for bipartisan cooperation?
I think what it signals is a growing recognition amongst my Republican colleagues that we have a health care crisis. Unfortunately, it's a health care crisis that they've created, and it needs to be decisively addressed. House Republican leaders continue to bury their heads in the sand, unfortunately, and they're joined by Senate Republican leadership that continues to force vote after vote on their partisan Republican spending bill that Democrats aren't supporting, because that partisan Republican spending bill continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans. And that's not an acceptable situation in this country, the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
I want to ask you about the politics of all this, because just the other day, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, he said that Democrats have the momentum, and he said, quote, "Every day gets better for us." Republicans are seizing upon that, including the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who was on this program last night, and they're accusing Democrats of politicizing the shutdown. Do you worry that a moment like that, a statement like that, undercuts what you see as Democrats having the moral high ground?
Well, House Democrats and Senate Democrats, led by Leader Schumer, are in this fight to make life better for the American people, to lower health care costs, to address the Republican health care crisis, to cancel the cuts, and to save the health care of the American people. That's the reason why we're in this fight.
For federal workers who risk missing a paycheck, for military families facing uncertainty, for everyday Americans who want to visit a national park, they are all wondering, when will this shutdown end? What would you tell them?
We need Donald Trump and Republicans to come to the negotiating table. We want to reopen the government. We want to reopen it now. We want to reach a bipartisan agreement in a way that spends taxpayer dollars, that actually improve the quality of life of the American people, that addresses the cost of living crisis that we're confronting in this country. You know, Donald Trump and Republicans promised that costs would go down on day one, but costs aren't going down under Republican control of government here in Washington. Costs are going up. Inflation is going up. The Trump tariffs are making life more expensive for millions of Americans who are paying thousands of dollars in additional expense per year. And now we're on the brink of this massive increase in premiums, copays, and deductibles because of a Republican refusal to sit down and negotiate an extension around the Affordable Care Act tax credits. We stand by our hard-working federal employees. We will continue to support them. We stand by the American people, and we want to bring this to a close, but we need good faith partners on the other side of the aisle to sit down and negotiate a bipartisan path forward.
House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thanks again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me say something that gets to the very crux of the matter, and this may be offensive for some to hear who are not on the side that we're on. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
Say that again.
Let me say it one more time for those of you who didn't hear me. White people, we have been the problem for 400 years.
The Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office says it found inconsistencies in the state police investigation into the last December's fatal crash that led to the arrest of LSU star Kyron Lacey. Chris Joseph reports state police are doubling down on their findings.
Fox 8 obtained the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's report and photos from the fatal December 2024 crash, which killed Herman Hall and led to the arrest of LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacey. Troopers arrested Lacey for negligent homicide and other charges after obtaining video of Lacey's green Charger driving the wrong way on a 2-lane highway, speeding past 3 cars and an 18-wheeler. Troopers say a gold truck swerved to the right to get out of the way, and a white Kia behind that truck swerved left into oncoming traffic, hitting Hall's vehicle. Witnesses told the trooper Lacey was to blame.
The green Charger caused all this.
The Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office released its April 2025 report on the state police's investigation. The first line of the report's conclusion says the state police investigation had several inconsistencies. The DA's office points to a state police claim that Lacey's vehicle was attempting to pass 4 vehicles at the time of the crash. While the DA's office says Lacey was traveling 88 miles per hour in the wrong lane in a 40-mile-per-hour zone, it notes Lacey was back in his lane before the crash occurred. State police released video that confirms that. The office also disputes the state police claim that the Kia was in the path of Lacey's vehicle, facing an imminent head-on crash. The report states Lacey's Charger and the Kia were 120 yards apart, and Lacey was returning to his lane 1 second before the crash. The district attorney's office also notes the white Kia was following the gold truck too close. The report ends with, the evidence submitted in the crash report does not support that Kyron Lacey should have known his actions were the cause of the crash that happened approximately 72 yards in front of him. Lacey's attorney, Matthew Ory, first flagged this report in an interview with Homa TV station HTV last Friday.
In my opinion, this never survives a grand jury. Never, ever survives a grand jury.
After Ory's interview, the state police released video of its own, highlighting Lacey's speeding and witness statements. One witness described the options he thought the white Kia had.
She had no choice. She hits the pole, she gets this.
State Police Colonel Robert Hodges pointed to that evidence.
We stand by our investigation that we had forwarded over to the district attorney's office in Lafourche Parish.
Attorney General Liz Murrill announced she was reviewing the case and also spoke in defense of the troopers.
This case is not, it's not as simple as anybody being able to come out and say that Kyron Lacey is innocent and that he was wrongly accused. There's nothing that I've seen in anything in the record that indicates that anybody did anything other than their jobs.
Lacey will not get his day in court on this issue. He killed himself in April in Houston during an unrelated car chase. Now, the district attorney's report is dated April 11th. Lacey killed himself the next day. John?
The man knot, race, class, genre, and the dilemmas of black manhood.
Well, KOT has been bombarded with emails and calls all weekend about what some claim was a lynching, but police say it was a suicide and nothing else.
Faithy Bonin spoke with a journalism professor from UNM who says situations like this are why it's important to know where you're getting your information.
It has been 1 year since Javon Given died. The Albuquerque Police Department ruling his death as a suicide September 2024.
They did find the man hanging by a chain from basically a pillar of a wall that was outside of a business that was closed for renovations. So it wasn't a tree, there wasn't a forest or anything like that.
According to the police report, officers responding to calls of, quote, a male who was found hanging in front of a vacant business by an employee in Northwest Albuquerque.
A year later, fast forward to right now, October 1st, this gentleman's sister called us from Kansas City to report that she had not heard from her brother in over a year, which tracks with about the same time last year. She said that last she heard from him, he was traveling through the United States backpacking, and he had last called from Albuquerque. He mentioned that he had been in some sort of trouble but didn't explain it, but she never heard from him again.
His sister describing him to police as an African-American male, approximately 140 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes.
So she had officers report him as missing, which they did. Those officers turned it over to the dispatcher, turned it over to the missing persons unit I think on Friday. And our detective at the missing persons unit looked up his name, found that there was a report from last year from that death that was ruled a suicide.
Given stories sparking outrage 1 year later, from social media to planned protest.
A student texted me about this yesterday.
UNM professor of journalism Gwyneth Dolan weighing in on the implications of misinformation.
I did a quick search and I said, this sounds really shocking, and that makes me suspicious. I told him, if this were real, you bet our news outlets would report on this. You would see this on KOAT if this were real. I advised him to send a tip to the newsroom and see if they followed up, and it sounds like a lot of people did that already.
Dolan underscoring the benefits and the dangers of information on social media.
Social media is a tool for connection for many of us, but it's also a tool that people use to stir up anger and divide us. And it's really hard sometimes to tell whether something is a legitimate injustice or misinformation, an accident, or something intentionally designed to disrupt our democracy.
Dolan informing all to take a pause first.
Navigate away from where you are. Google it and look for a source that you know and trust.
Faith Imwanu, KOAT, Action 7 News.
We are aware of photos circulating of Given online, but we chose not to post until confirmed if it's indeed him in those photos.
That if you want ultimate expression of white supremacy and the white supremacist mentality, and you want to put it in the form of one person that I would name, and that's something I very seldom do, it would be Jeffrey Dahmer. He's the ultimate expression of white supremacy. Everything that he was doing, working in a chocolate factory, the whole 9 yards, storing black male bodies in canisters of lye and alcohol and whatnot, got them in the refrigerator, and cannibalism and all of that, and calm, very methodical. Even when questioned by the law enforcement officers, very calm. Hannibal Lecter.
Frozen femurs in the freezer. Jeffrey Dahmer.
To take in, to hear, like, for somebody so, like the devil, to just, like, still be in court in front of everybody, like, I don't know, it's just terrible.
On Thursday, family and friends of Renea Lewis reacting following the arraignment of Douglas Shaw. He pleaded not guilty in her murder.
It's just like, I'm so numb. Like, that's just so messed up. Like, if you told what happened, why are you, like, switching it up? Like, I feel like that's not right.
It's insane. It's nightmares. It's scary.
Shaw was arrested September 30th following a search of his Vallejo home. A forensic team found the missing 28-year-old's body in a hidden wall in the home's attic. Police say that Shaw confessed to using a knife to kill her.
How did she get there? The way that house looked, not one of the people I know, anybody in this family, her friends, nobody would have went into something like that. It looked like a homeless encampment. We won't know the truth unless he really tells us it. It was enough, thank you for him confessing, but we need to know the whys, the where, how long, like, why? Why did you do that?
Court documents show that Shaw was taken into custody at his place of business, which shares the same address as Six Flags Discovery Kingdom in Vallejo. A Six Flags spokesperson says they cannot share personnel files, but did tell Cron 4 News that they are cooperating with law enforcement on this case. Families say October 6th would have been her 29th birthday.
Family is pretty stuck together. We had a nice barbecue celebration for her birthday last Sunday. A lot of people came out. It was nothing but respect and love.
A preliminary hearing has been set for November 18th. Lewis's supporters say that they will be at every hearing to fight for justice.
It just got me so speechless. Like, I just want to get justice, like, fast as possible, as soon as possible. We don't want to have to wait for nothing, like, because it's like we already hurting, like, we already, like, it's just a lot, like.
Shaw remains in custody at the Solano County Jail. In Fairfield, Teresa Estacio, Cron 4 News.
This is the actual videotape found by the Villas, and police are convinced that the person holding the camera set the fire himself. The Villa family was stunned when they realized what they were watching. The disturbing voice on the tape seemed to belong to the arsonist. The police have since enhanced the voice for clarity.
Do you see what I could do, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see what I can do?
This is crazy.
Joseph Villa decided to turn the tape over to the authorities.
I've never run across anything as eerie as this tape. It frightened me. As a matter of fact, I thought about it that night when I went to bed.
The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison.
U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley announcing the arrest of a suspect in the Palisades fire. He is a 29-year-old Florida resident named Jonathan Rinderknecht, who had been living in the Palisades. He's been accused of intentionally setting a fire in the first few minutes of New Year's Day, January 1st, at a popular hiking spot above the Palisades. That fire had been extinguished by firefighters, but then it reignited a week later on January 7th amid fierce winds. And that fire is the one that caused billions of dollars worth of destruction. 12 people died. Rinderknecht has a detention hearing tomorrow morning in federal court in Orlando, Florida. Richard Winton is a crime writer for the Los Angeles Times, and he was at today's news conference by the U.S. Attorney. Hi, Richard.
Good afternoon.
We're also joined by Jim Brown, fire investigator with a private consulting company called Fire Forensics and Technology. He's joining us from Fresno, where he's at the California Conference of Arson Investigators. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you. Richard, let's begin with you. Tell us more about this suspect, apparently an Uber driver who had dropped off a passenger in the Palisades area, and then he went to this spot. It's called Skull Rock. And what do authorities say he did then?
Okay, so at Skull Rock, he took some pictures, and basically they were able to see that he could track his electronic movements with his phone. He basically walked up the trail and at some point used a lighter, and he was smoking at the time, and the fire ignited the fire with an open flame. Basically then, seemingly in a panic, he started to then dial 911. He couldn't get through, and then he a little bit later tried again, and then maybe this is probably the most obvious thing he did, which is at one moment he literally typed into his phone to ChatGPT, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit because of your cigarettes?" Mm. And so, in addition to that, he'd also priorly on ChatGPT done another very unusual thing, which is basically had a series of images of a dystopian city, as the U.S. Attorney described it, burning. It was just like images made up of a city burning.
Is the U.S. Attorney accusing him of deliberately setting a fire, or is he saying that it was an accident? No,
the U.S. Attorney and the ATF did a massive investigation on this, are both saying he deliberately set this fire. It was an intentional fire. It wasn't like he dropped a cigarette. No, this was an intentional act. They're very clear about this.
But then he tried to call 911, right, to try to get firefighters to come and put it out?
Yes, and as your esteemed fire investigator will probably tell you in a few seconds, that isn't unusual when it comes to arsonists. Okay. They often do this kind of thing.
Yeah. So, Jim, is it unusual?
No, it's not unusual. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's an aspect of fire setting we call pyromania, and part of that psychological profile is the part of vanity, which is they want credit for what they've done.
And Richard, do the authorities say that that is in fact what the suspect wanted? He wanted some kind of notoriety?
They haven't gone into they haven't spoken to his direct motive. What they do say is he eventually did reach 911. Even when he drove back down the hill and saw the fire trucks coming, he went back up the hill and then tried to volunteer to help the firefighters put the fire out. These are all things which put him on the radar, obviously, eventually, for the original fire, which was on, this is all happening in the sort of hour after the New Year starts. This is all very much in. So that was when it was all in play. But yes, he did he want notoriety? Well, it seems like he wanted some attention. That's for sure.
Jim, again, how common is it for an arson suspect to want to actually help firefighters put out the blaze that they allegedly started?
Again, very, very common. They want to see what their handiwork has done. They disguise themselves as either a witness or somebody who's trying to help. Not too unusual when it comes to this type of event. Also, the fact that it happened right at New Year's Eve, I think, is telling as well, as far as trying to create something. Whatever that motive was, he was trying to create something on that specific date.
Richard, the authorities also cited the music he was listening to. Yes,
there's a couple of things. Firstly, they in the affidavit, and the U.S. attorney they talked to his Uber passengers in the moments, running up to this, and they described him as being angry. And then they said that he was watching, he was listening to a French rap song, which I will not destroy the name of, Under, and the music video describes about despair and bitterness, shows a trash can being lit on fire, and he listened to it 9 times in 4 days before the alleged fire, and he played it right when he was there, kind of at that moment. So the law of this case is based on the what they could find out from his electronic footprint that day, and in the days before, related to fire materials and things which seem to be common to fire.
But that is circumstantial, right? It doesn't directly tie him or give him a concrete motive. I mean, he could have been listening to anything that had the words fire in it.
Yeah. I mean, the image, he seems to be, I don't know how, Jim, this will be a little unusual because we've had other things catch people. But here he seems to be like the first suspect I can recall for something of this scale, where ChatGPT is like part of his downfall. A couple of his inputs into that seem to be majorly at the. But yes, they are building what is essentially a circumstantial case where they put him in a certain place where the fire starts. They can say it was started with open flame. They can say that it started here and this guy was here. And they can say this guy has done the following with his electronic footprint in the days after and the days before.
So, Jim, this fire was initially put out by firefighters, and then it appears that fierce winds kind of stirred the embers that had been buried. How common is that? I understand the Maui fire started in a similar fashion.
Yes, similar with a tighter time constraint. That initial fire in Lahaina was in the morning, and then the rekindle surfaced when the winds picked up. The key here is the winds. When the top portions of vegetation burn, that's what's put out and burning, but the roots can continue to burn down into the soil. And those can go on for days. That's not unusual. That's why they add a lot more water. They monitor. They have fire watch, all of that. When the winds pick up, as they did 7 days later in the Palisades fire, then as wind is going over the surface of the ground in what we call a laminar flow, it then pulls, it creates a negative pressure down below and draws the embers to the surface. Then they come to the surface and are blown downrange with the wind, and I'm sure that's the fire dynamics and the mechanism at play here.
So does the fire department bear responsibility? They're not charged in this case.
Not for me to say. I don't know all of what they did or didn't do. I don't know their operational procedures. I don't know about manpower. There's a lot of things at play. Perhaps they were monitoring. I don't know. I'll leave that to the public to decide.
Okay. So, Richard, final question. 12 people died. The authorities have charged Rinderknecht with destruction of property by means of fire, and they have not charged him with manslaughter. What do you make of that?
This is early days. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, it seems that they could have charged him with destruction of property and just tied him to the January 1st fire. They didn't need to bring in the whole element of did that cause the Palisades fire by when it rekindled. But the fact that they have done that leaves open a massive door to place the whole and utter blame of the Palisades fire on him. Obviously, the Palisades fire had 12 fatalities, so at some point they could, further their case and expand it to include a concept of federal manslaughter, but through negligence. Mm-hmm. Or is this even negligence here? They're not. They're saying it's an intentional act. I mean, they could go further, but yeah, their door isn't firmly shut. The fact that they have made him very strongly the cause of the Palisades fire, kind of puts the onus heavily on the potential that they will expand the case.
Richard Winton, crime writer for the LA Times. Jim Brown, fire investigator with Fire Forensics and Technology. Thank you both so much.
5, 4, 3. She's pure alligator. Pure white. 2.
Albinos that do make it to reproductive age can't find a mate because they look funny.
1.
Albino affairs.
As I say, this was about a decade ago, and I haven't heard from Dennis Jackson since that night. About 10 years ago, I was asked to help MC a charity auction. Now, the cause was childhood cancers, and I was glad to help out. But as I say, this was about a decade ago, and I haven't heard from Dennis Jackson since that night. Until, that is, just a few days ago. After 10 years of not talking, I found myself here in Jackson's boat. The photographer had written to say he'd seen a rare white beaver and wondered if I might think it was worth a story. Jackson suggested we bring along an expert, and that's how the famed naturalist and Carleton University professor Michael Runts ended up on board with us.
Beautiful evening.
The wildlife expert and author warned us it wasn't the sight of us or the noise we might make as much as the way we smelled that most hurt our chances of seeing the animal.
And when they're on land, they're always having their heads up and smelling the air for danger.
The idea was to get a photograph of this rare and special creature. There were plenty of beavers to see, but the white one was being shy. While we waited for the sun to go down, the longtime Algonquin Park guide shared stories of his encounters with the animal that is so key to the story of Canada.
The beaver was smelling the air, stopped growling, dropped down, grabbed the poplar branch, and dragged it between my legs down back to the pond.
Would the white beaver make an appearance?
I think that often is done if there's a family, if there's young ones. Oh, there's the beaver. There he is.
There it was, and there it goes. With a slap, it had disappeared.
I'm surprised.
We worried it would be gone for good until it reappeared, somehow unafraid of us. With the help of a silent electric motor, we were able to get an incredible close look at an animal almost never seen. To understand just how rare a white beaver is and why its fur is that color, I came to the Canadian Museum of Nature. This expert on Canadian mammals says it's not an albino beaver, but a beaver with leucism, a genetic condition that causes a loss of pigmentation, and the museum has a sample in its collection.
It's right here.
A pelt collected more than 100 years ago from northwestern Ontario. Millions of beavers were trapped in Canada during the fur trade. Dominique Fautus says a tiny fraction would have been born white, and of those, few would have survived, sticking out like a sore thumb.
A leucistic beaver could become more vulnerable for sure.
All in all, then, a rare white example of a Canadian icon and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
You're happy with that? I'm very happy. Just seeing it. If I didn't get any photographs, I'd be almost equally as happy. I must admit I'm a little happier that we were successful.
Stu Mills, CBC News, Ottawa.
Got albino affairs courtesy of Ottawa this week. Don't want folks to think that the affection for the pale critters is just a U.S. thing. I think we have enough content thus far to evidence that this is not a North American thing either, right? Parallel with the global system of white supremacy racism. Albino affairs. Context, I don't really care nothing about beavers regardless, but whatever. Context of white supremacy. The worthless Negro from Virginia, Gus T. Renegade, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Saturday, October 11, 2025. So I have been told. This is our weekly compensatory call-in. Dial in if you have thoughts, observation, counter-racist suggestions. Let us know. The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Not for spectators. Man, oh man, y'all can pray for Gus T. Hopefully he will be safe, able to continue broadcasting over the next month or so. Man, I told you, I posted, you check my record, I posted about 2 weeks ago. It was on a Thursday, and matter of fact, it was on a Thursday night. I didn't even know the flippin' Seahawks were about to play a football game on Thursday night. And I also just said weeks ago, that's one of the things I hate about Seattle. They have all these sports teams, and so professional sports teams and even college. So you might randomly, especially once the Seahawks football season, that means random Thursday, random Monday night, random Sunday night, even sometimes go downtown. What is all these drunk white? What's going? Oh, the Seahawks. Oh. You want to talk about pandemonium and inebriated race soldiers out in droves. Oh, the danger. I hate it, hate it, hate it. This October, it is compounded because Seattle sports has been killing it this autumn. Just doing metaphor, forgive. Seattle sports has been doing astronomically well. If you're looking for distractions from replacing white supremacy with justice, as I said, as I was posting online about all this weeks ago, Seahawks played that night and they won. University of Washington just won the Apple Cup, thrashed Washington State. Didn't even know if they were going to keep having the Apple Cup after all that wacky realignment. And then they had another irregular game. Same thing happened last night. I was walking on the campus at UW, and I'm like, what is going on? Because all these white Rutgers people had a party. Rutgers is in New Jersey, and they had a Friday night game. Wacky. Which University of Washington won, of course, send them white Bammers packing back to the other side of the continent, while white people were at the football contest for all the brain damage. They had to stop and go out in the concourse and look at the score of the baseball game. Mariners, playoff baseball. I can't even pretend to be a Mariners fan. They had the epic 15-inning game. Gus T didn't watch 30 seconds of it. Not in attendance. I didn't go out and tailgate. None of it. Seattle makes their first American League Championship Series in a quarter century. What were you doing, Gus T? Well, when the game lasted so long, when it started, we were doing the book club. So we were talking about Asada, COINTELPRO. Matter of fact, Purge in Wilmington, white supremacy in New Jersey. That's what I was doing. And then preparing for the program today. That's what I was doing. Not white ball games. I can't even pretend well. They say, hey, Brother Gus, you like the Mariners, don't you? Oh, yeah, I love the Mariners. The whole time I've been here. Who's your favorite player on the team from today going to the championship round? Let's see. I can't say Ken Griffey. For intelligent people who have no idea about the Seattle Mariners baseball, Ken Griffey Jr., privileged black male, he did play for the Mariners, but about 50 years ago, yes, Ken Griffey Jr. did play for the Mariners, but I'm not sure that was this century. So you don't know nobody that play on the team right now? I sound foolish if I say Jackie Robinson, so yeah, I ain't gonna say nothing else. Just right on Mariners. Yeah, I know Mariner Moose. I know the Moose. They got the mascot, see, because that's how I found out that they got Moose in Washington State, which really upset me. Maybe that and them trading Russell Wilson from the Seahawks really kind of killed my emotional attachment to Seattle teams, because you get all excited and they get a black brother on the team and they win the Super Bowl and then they cast him to the curb like rubbish. And we miss you, Brother Russie Poo. That's my black brother, got the Super Bowl ring and everything. But see, if they can trade Russell Wilson, they trade anybody. So I don't really, Anyway, but right on Mariners, y'all. Get it done. I did have to pause. I said, man, this is the second consecutive October. The baseball playoffs have encroached on my counter-racist activities. This time last October, I was preparing to go to California. I said, oh, man, look like Dodgers, they might be in the World Series. Man, I'll be in L.A. during the World Series. Oh, man. And I had to run out of L.A. before they ride and burn the city down like, oh, man, this time around they came to my backyard. Man. White ball games. Indeed. Any hoodles. For more important matters, the production of justice. We did not even get to hear all of the different reports from this week. I missed. That is, I guess, always the case, because you can't discuss everything. More to add, I guess. That's why I encourage folks to share. Make sure you check the news. Lots more important than keeping up with white ball games and or other distractions. That notwithstanding, with the shutdown, we did hear information on that. My recommendation would be prepare. Just go ahead and anticipate that this so-called shutdown is going to last for a long time. And when I say long time, meaning weeks. That this is not going to be some, oh man, we got it all, wrapped up and miraculously figured things out and we've got back on one accord and hey, we got it together. Like, I don't think so. Like I said, I would prepare for weeks, and that way it'll be a pleasant surprise. Saving as much as possible and just prepping. That's why really this is nothing new. I've been saying that forever. maybe even saving, even if you are not a federal employee and concerned directly about being furloughed or what have you, still thinking like, ooh, this could go on for a long time and have a massive impact, even with travel, because they've already been saying how that's disrupted flights and such. Man, if this goes on for more weeks, which I suspect it will, I guess you don't have a whole lot of people fly for Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. I'm pretty sure that starts to pick up once you hit Halloween, and November it just goes up and up and up. So I would maybe be thinking about like, oh man, so what if we get to Turkey Day next month and all this is still going on? You thought you had to sit in a line at the airport before. I was disgruntled about having to sit in a line for a few hours in Minnesota, even though Minnesota is lame. Golden Valley is in Minnesota. George Floyd. Think about having to sit there. Could be days if they got delays because they ain't got no air traffic controllers and all of it. Like, ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Might be something to think about down as opposed to waiting and that Gus said this might happen. Yeah. It, in fact, even might still be going on by the time we get to Christmas. Just something to consider. Hopefully not, but just something to consider. Now, reports that we heard specifically, they said they were talking about great white in Southern California, and apparently they have been accused of practicing racism in their seating patterns. We don't want a whole lot of dark people here, but so-called Asians over in the corner next to the restroom in the dark, and don't let too many of them in. Even got a code. Oh, we're overbooked. We got a reservation. We don't have no more space. What to tell people now? Hearing all of that, Joe Fegan was a guest on the Cows 15 years ago. We discussed his book, Two-Faced Racism. He has a whole chapter in that book about all of that. White people having an extensive racist code in the restaurant food industry about how to deal with black customers. He even that like explicitly is a whole part of the book of that chapter specifically where they talk about, oh man, we don't want all these dark people. And he said they would have like code words like, oh, we got a dark cloud. Oh, it's coming in. Oh man, things are looking muggy. Oh man, oh, it's gonna be ugly. It got so dark so quick. Oh. And they just go and tell the new people, that means I put the dark people in the corner. Don't let no more dark people in. Definitely no niggers. And then they start making up all that old vague nonsense. Hey, we can't let you in with them shoes. Can't let you in with them pants on. Oh no. Now, they said when we spoke with the folks from Great White, and they even had to comment and said, hey, ain't nothing racist about our name. We just got white in the title, implying that we practice no sort of white supremacy racism or that we mistreat non-white people. Everyone is welcome at Great White, like the shark. I know one thing, you go to Great White in Venice or anywhere else in California, go in there, ask, hey, y'all serve Colt 45 bologna sandwich? See how welcome you'll be then. And or go in there and not have enough nickels. See how welcome you are then. Go in there with 2 or 3 dark people, much less, and not have enough nickels. See how everybody, I know everybody is not welcome at Great White. Great White. Glad I didn't eat down there while I was visiting. Let's see. Did you hear the case or before I even get to that, in California, they said they're going to phase out the ultra processed foods because it's so harmful, especially to the little people. Bravo. But I mean, that's just California. Two, is so ubiquitous. I mean, I don't know. You're going to get that fruit by the foot someplace if you don't get it at the school. So, I don't know. But I will say, for parents, if you hear information like that, make sure your child doesn't go to school and, they don't give us the fruit by the foot and the Lunchables and all that and the Oreo cookies because it's got all the red number 5 and all the chemicals in it and such. And then you go home and you just get double of all that stuff. Like, come on. And your parents eat all that stuff. Come on. You are what your grandparents ate. Get your diet correct before you have the children, and then make a plan. Talk about that all the time. Make a plan before you have the children about diet and nutrition. Ignorance definitely can't be one there because they got books aplenty, YouTube channels aplenty, classes aplenty. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So there should be no justification to, I don't know nothing about nutrition. I'm just and hey, you do have a mouth and you eat food from time to time, so you shouldn't be clueless about food. This is what you signed up for, having a child. So do some, at least I might be ignorant about food and lots that I still got to learn, but I am going to learn a little bit about what they call ultra processed foods. Make sure we don't have too many of these around if I plan on having a black child. Part of my counter-racist duties, yes, and make sure I don't eat too many ultra-processed foods because I'm going to be an attempted parent. I'm supposed to be here for as long as I can. They keep saying these ultra-processed foods, you're not going to be around too long. Simple, something not that difficult. I'm going to eat more of the apples and the grapes because I don't never hear them get called ultra-processed. I'm going to eat a little bit more of that. Get the bok choy, get the broccoli. Zucchini. I don't hear them say that's ultra processed. I'm gonna eat a little bit more of that. Hey, even see if I can get my children to eat some of that stuff. Put that fruit by the foot down. There we go. Let's see. That's California. Let's see. They got black brother Dylan Lambert blow darts. And these were white people, some of the folks that, I don't know everybody that he was, but they showed the projectiles on TV because they had video for that report. And these things looked like they could do some serious damage. I mean, it was not like no little small needle. Like, it looked like if it hit you correctly, it could put you down. Like, it could cause a serious puncture wound, definitely put an eye out, or, maybe even kill you if it hit you in the correct spot. Like, I think it looked long enough. I don't know if it could puncture and hit you in the chest cavity and pierce your heart or something like that, but it looked like it could do some serious damage. In fact, when I heard the report, it reminded me, retired firefighter. One, I think that's in, it's either Mike Swango or 22 caliber killer. One of them had blow darts as well, and it staggered me because I was like, what? I think it was Swango. Like, what? Blow darts? What? And I think retired firefighters said that they had blow darts at the fire station, and they would use them to go out and try and pick off the rodent population that lived around the fire station. But Dylan Lambert, I'm going to go out and just fire away at random people. And I think they said he was a DoorDash driver. Like, dang, you go out and deliver food and then they don't give you a tip or whatever. White people kill for fun. Because I think some of the people that he fired at, they said they didn't know Dylan Lambert. They didn't know him at all. He had just run. They didn't recognize him. They hadn't, cut him off. This wasn't a road rage thing. They didn't owe him money. Nothing. Just, I got my blow dart. Really? Same type of behavior Isabel Wilkerson told us about it. White people go out and get drunk, nothing to do on the weekend, we just go shoot up the nigger part of town. We've heard that over and over. Same type of behavior. Blow darts. Dare I even say white genetic annihilation. And this is a young white guy too. Let's see. We heard from former Police Chief Virgil Green. This is in Golden Valley, Minnesota. Golden Valley, Minnesota is one of those little tiny places. It's about 20,000 people thereabouts. 80% white, 6% thereabouts Negro for sure. Sundown town, racially restricted region. So they get a black police chief, privileged black male, Virgil Green. He said they accosted him, called him a DEI hire. What does that mean? In a racially restricted region. What does that mean? What does that mean? Said they got mad at him because he released some dash cam video a la George Floyd. Said he released it, and I don't know if it was in violation of policy and procedure, and or if he endangered the officers by releasing the video. I mean, was it a violation of policy and procedure? Are you not supposed to release them? Is it a protocol that you're supposed to go through before you release the footage? Like, they would have to detail that to me. The word they use frequently now is transparency. Why do you have the dash cam if it's not to reveal the footage, show that we were on the up and up? If we're not on the up and up, training opportunity, we can do better. What's the problem? They said, if I heard it correctly, there was a problem because there was an officer cheating on an exam, and I guess Virgil Green found this out, and they said he intimidated the person. Shouldn't you? For some reason, I doubt this was like Leroy, some black dude, some black female, some non-white person, period, who was cheating on the exam, and Mr. Green got upset with them. I cannot imagine them being like, Devontae was in here copying the answers off of his cheat sheet, and Virgil Green called him out on that and was giving him, Negro male scowls. And, Devontae felt some type of way about it, and we don't think that's right. You're not supposed to be intimidating students who trying to study and pass their exams. Like, I just can't see them, it's probably a white person. And that's such a rampant problem. Maybe we even had some old cronyism, nepotism, where a white person had their cousin, uncle, aunt, already on the Golden Valley Police Department, and they gave them the answers to the test. So they just in there writing down, Uncle Ted told me it's B, C, D. Well, I ain't doing nothing, Mr. Green. I ain't doing nothing today. I was just stretching, Mr. Green. I ain't doing nothing. Maybe that's what, just using my following logic on what they told us. Let's see. The shutdown, the key word they keep using is chaos, wanting to cause chaos, crisis, confusion. White people love to generate confusion, and maybe even some white sacrifice here, where I'm sure there will be maybe some white people who do lose a job, miss out on some paychecks, maybe even have some tackiness where they don't get back pay that was promised to them. Maybe they will be all right, certainly in comparison to individuals classified as not white. They had, prior to all this, they just had that report about black females specifically and losing all their jobs and not getting federal employment, and it is a crisis for black females specifically. They don't even hire black males enough to include us in the report. So if that is the case, like, wow, if it's going to be rough for maybe a small number of white people, it will be cataclysmic for individuals classified as black, non-white. Let's see. The segment, they were talking, Letitia James. I would just encourage folks, in New York, Attorney General, a black female. I would encourage, I guess she might be, is she a federal employee? I have to see if does she count as a federal employee, that President Trump encouraging all of these black people to be prosecuted and charged and all the rest of it. They had a report in the New York Times this week where they were talking about the high number of black people that President Trump has had fired. I would just say be mindful of cases like this to see what happens. Particularly this case, it even reminded me Marilyn Mosby, the prosecutor down in Maryland. She prosecuted the officers for the Freddie Gray killing unsuccessfully, obviously, but similar, where she was charged, where they said she got over and got a loan or was able to acquire financing for a piece of property where they said she shouldn't have, or she did some illegal financing to acquire this property or the loan for the property, whatever it was, and convicted her, like same type of thing. I could see this, particularly it seems for lots of black people getting fired and or being prosecuted. Let's see. Oh, wait, I've got to say something about Garfield High School. How could I skip over that one? Man, that report where they talked about the violence at Seattle's Garfield High School. Man, you could almost... Actually, I take that back. If you have enough time, you can walk from Garfield High School to T-Mobile Stadium, where the Mariners played their 15-inning game last night. You absolutely could walk from... I would have to see the time to see, how long it would take one to walk. But I know that would almost just be like one turn, like straight shot, one turn. You could do it pretty easily, I suspect. But Garfield High School, like I didn't grow up in Seattle, so obviously I did not attend, graduate, nothing, Garfield High School. But I have been near it so many times, walked by it so many times. Okay, you could walk from Garfield High School to T-Mobile Stadium. It would almost be a straight line, basically one or two turns. It would take a little over 30 minutes. If you're a healthy person, you can walk. It would take a little over 30 minutes. You could walk from Garfield High School to T-Mobile Stadium to see a Mariners game. They talked about all of the violence and what have you. Garfield High School is in the middle of the Central District in Seattle, which for decades has been affectionately known as the Colored District, where they warehouse Negroes. Now, Seattle, the population has boomed. There has been massive gentrification, so there are way fewer Negroes there now than there used to be, although black people do still live in the Central District, and they do have pitiful efforts here in the city to try to retain a certain amount of Negro population in the Central District. Not too much, though. Anyway, but Garfield High School is right there, and they still have a high population of black people in Garfield High School. I walked past Garfield High School today. I go past there all the time, but they talked about the violence there, and that's like in the news all the time, whether it's happening to the students directly or just violence in that particular area where they have shootings right around the school, and all of that on 23rd is kind of the main street. Where Garfield sits on 23rd and all the way down to Cherry in Seattle. But when they talk to those young children, and they have pictures with that audio from Seattle Public Radio, where they're talking to a lot of young non-white children, and you're hearing young people that are well under 20. You were talking to folks who hadn't graduated or anything, and they're saying, man, all of this, every time that this happens, ugh, I didn't even want to go back to school. Ugh. Reminded me of other something. Like, are you serious? Are you serious? Who wants to learn, thrive in that sort of environment? By the way, I don't know if it's relevant or not. You all can tell me. I thought this just because I just told you I walked past Garfield today. And I thought, dang, they told us some years ago When these recreational cannabis spots were opened, circa 2012, Obama's re-election, they were going to have to be a certain distance from schools. There is a cannabis dispensary approximately, I'm going to say, a half mile from Garfield High School. Might not even be that. Like, I haven't, sussed it out exactly, but I mean, it's pretty close. It's not very far. Like, you could walk it in way less time than, it would take to get, let's see, it's a half mile. I don't even think it's a half mile, and it is a straight shot. You could just stay on the sidewalk. Boop, 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 boop. Matter of fact, since I'm looking at the map here, how many blocks is it? Straight shot from Garfield High School at the intersection of 23rd and Cherry. You would walk 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 blocks, which puts you at a recreational cannabis dispensary from Garfield High School. 4 blocks. And Seattle has short city blocks. We talked about that before. I don't know if that's relevant to all of the violence really right, and not just around, but right there at Garfield High School. I don't know. I know other schools in the Seattle area. Roosevelt High School, that's up not too far from the University of Washington. Same thing, straight shot, and it'd be a little farther. I think Roosevelt is probably about 2 miles from the University of Washington. All of this is north of where Garfield is. And the general rule in Seattle, the further north you go in the city of Seattle, the more white, fewer dark people you're going to bump into. Not going to see Veely and his type as you move north. So Roosevelt High School, I don't hear them talking about, and I go, hey, I was at Roosevelt High School today too. I pass Roosevelt High School on a pretty frequent basis. I do not hear them talk about, man, he was getting shot. Oh my goodness, what we gonna do at Roosevelt High School? All the violence and I didn't even want to go to class at it. I don't hear that at all. At all. The main thing that I hear on that part of town is grousing and complaining because the children at Roosevelt High School, what they have within a 5-mile radius of their school is Whole Foods. The grousing and complaining is about the Roosevelt children, overwhelmingly white, shoplifting from Whole Foods, not dealing with violence and gun trauma. Negra district, or colored, really Negra district would be better, but I guess you got to preserve the CD, colored district. Anyway, but that's what it means to be Negra. That, in addition to what I just told you, I talked to black educators here, and they said they're closing the schools where the black people are anyway. I haven't heard anything about Garfield being closed. That's one of their more popular ones and right in the main area. But, man, closing schools and the ones you keep open, got to deal with all that. System of white supremacy, indeed. Let's see. They talked about environmental racism in Cancer Alley, Louisiana. We did read a terrible thing to waste. That would be something else to consider when you procreate. What sort of poisons are we breathing in, the water, all the rest of it, where we live? How is that going to impact, particularly because children are very sensitive to all those poisons and chemicals, even impact the development of their brain computer. Freddie Gray, one more time. The lead poisoning. Let's see. I just heard of Javon Given, non-white, privileged non-white male who they say was found hanging from a tree, similar to Demontravian Reed, who was just found down in Delta State, Mississippi, found suspiciously hanging from a tree where they said it was suicide. Javon Given, this is last year in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they also said he was found hanging from a tree. Police said it was suicide. Family disagrees. I guess they haven't changed, the police haven't changed their finding or anything. They still say it's suicide. Black people do not qualify for mental health, and the number of young people committing suicide has been rising, particularly black males. We've done programs about this, but any hanging from a tree, there would be lots of cause for suspicion. Let's see. The case with Rania Lewis, 28-year-old black female, Vallejo, California, Bay Area. I was there preparing to be there this time last year. Man, when I heard the family, just from the very beginning, when I heard about that case last week, and they spoke with the family after they went to court this week, and the suspected race soldier in his 40s charged in this killing, and the family said, what sort of demon is this? Dismember the body? Stuff her in a wall? What sort of demon? I said, wow, I have heard all this before. Recently. What does it mean to be white? And one, I'll even add, I would hope we can pause for evidence. That's one thing. One reason that we have compensatory call-in to review evidence, what are news reports, things that are happening, so we can be informed. System of white supremacy, racism, evidence that there is such a system, and then being informed about things that are happening within that system so we can make better decisions, hopefully make decisions to solve the problem. But to hear a report like that, where and these are cases that don't even get publicized, right? It's not Gabby Petito. But to hear something like that, just having heard Sade C. Robinson, man, be about evidence. And I say that specifically. Both of those cases, I heard lots of rumors and people just saying wacky things, and really, that was why I wanted to go to the trial. Let's just get all of the facts and evidence about what happened with Sade C. Robinson in Wisconsin. I saw, and it just was reported last week about Rania Lewis's murder. Like, it's literally just been days. All the facts, they haven't been to trial. All they've done is gone to trial. The suspect pled not guilty. That's it. We haven't had all the proceedings, so they pull all the evidence out so everybody can scrutinize and, oh, okay, this would happen. None of that yet. I've already seen people who just heard about this case days ago, like myself, and they're jumping to conclusions and say, oh, man, see, that's why no dating. See, you're out here going online and hooking up with these. Pause. I have no idea how Rania Lewis, R-E-N-I-A, Lewis, I have no idea how she met this white dude. I know different circumstances for Sade C. Robinson, and I know that because I sat through the 2-week trial every day to get all of the records that, oh, okay, they were out on a date, had met previously, okay, saw the video records of all that. I haven't seen any of that. I've heard some of her relatives speak. They have been befuddled. How did she know this? Now, same thing happened with Sade Robinson, where initially her relatives and such, they just didn't know that she had gone out on a date and blah, 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 and all that stuff. I haven't heard any of that in this case. Haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any news outlets call it the first date case or any of that. All I've heard really is people saying, how in the world did they come in contact? I know she wouldn't have went to this dude's house because it looks like some sort of homeless encampment. She wouldn't have followed him in there. Did he swango her? That's what some of her family suspected. Did he drug her? Did he attack her or do something to her elsewhere and then bring her to there when she had been incapacitated in some form? What happened? They don't know. So that would be, I guess, my encouragement, and I think that would be counter-racist code, to be about evidence, not just making up things. If you have conjecture, if you think maybe they did, I don't know, but I haven't seen any evidence of that, so I'm not going to be coming on and particularly coming out to wag my finger at, hey, man, you shouldn't be dating white dudes. We shouldn't be dating white people anyway. That's just something I would say standard, but I have no evidence, knowledge that that's connected to this case. Man, let's wait and get the details regardless of what happened. She is a victim, and yes, there were some racist, demonic acts with this white fella. Maybe best we can do, use this case so we can further educate what does it mean to be white, because apparently they are astronomically dangerous. Wisconsin to California, Milwaukee to Vallejo, astronomically dangerous, demonic, dismember you and we don't even find you. Just fortunate. Have to pay attention to that. That would be the same thing if I had young folks, male or female, would have to pay attention to that case. That's the price of being a parent. Got to be vigilant. Let's see. Oh, and then the white, they charged the 28-year-old white man in the Palisades fire. I processed that as end-stage white supremacy. He was, they said that they had evidence. He had been looking on his phone, listening to songs that were talking about burning down a city, making images of a city, apocalyptic ruins and burned down and smoldering ruins and all the rest of it. In fact, we had been hearing reports where they were saying they were having these young white males, nihilistic and life is worthless and all this suffering and just destroy everything. That's the same ethos. Some of the people who said that they wanted to attack the electric stations and poison the water supply and blow up the Flown Towers, almost Turner Diaries type thing. It was same thing. We were just hearing reports about that. And the narcissism and vanity component. I want the credit. I'm gonna go and pretend, hey, maybe I can join the fire crew. Do you all need any help? Wow, it sure does look dangerous. Wow. I want to take credit for this. I want to be able to brag about it. Maybe they'll do an old Jeff Dahmer style Netflix movie about me and how I burned down Los Angeles. Yeah, get me old document. Who you think played me in the documentary? Haven't we heard that about 15,000 times? And people died in all this. What that even reminded me of Fuller. He used to say all the time, white people build up to tear down. Brag about blowing things up and tearing down, not being constructive, blowing things up here, burning things down. Sit back and cackle about burn down. I take credit for that. Plants we ruined, air quality that we messed up, had people, I can't breathe. That's me. That's me. That's me. Make sure, put his name by it since he wanted the credit for Jonathan Rinderneck. I want to brag about that. A lot of these folks are young, like in their 20s, young white people. Peyton Gendron and such, young white people. Joseph Christopher was at 24 when he was out there killing all the folks, but young. The fella that was shooting blow darts at people. These are young white people. The danger. Really, end stage white supremacy. I keep saying, I think you're just going to see more of this, and more of this. That's my explanation. He was out blowing blow darts at people randomly? What? He was trying to burn down L.A.? What? End stage white. He was threatening to kill Barbara Lee. That was one that I forgot. I had the audio for it, and then they didn't touch on it specifically. The mayor of Oakland, black female Barbara Lee, she did her State of the City address and was talking about Oakland and all the things they're planning to do, Bay Area, and get things right for Oakland, and yum, yum, yum. Okay. White dude wrote her and said, I hope all the niggers in Oakland and you are killed. What? Are they sending federal troops to Bay Area? You don't talk about killing, before we get to the mayor, you don't talk about no campaign of genocide in Oakland. We already had Jim Jones. We don't need no more of that. Get out of here. What do you mean? You killing all the niggers in Oakland? Tupac rolling over in his grave. Huey Newton rolling over in his grave. What do you mean you're going to kill all the black people in Oakland? We got C.O.W.S listeners in Oakland. And you going to kill the mayor? Where's the Department of Homeland Security at? That's what I mean. It was a lot of stuff that happened this week. The shutdown and all that. Couldn't even play everything that happened. But I mean, wow, this was an older person. He doesn't quite fit that same age demographic, the young white people. But it's the same spirit, same ethos, emboldened in the system of white supremacy racism. I have to see what type of charges they end up hitting this dude with. But yeah, that just happened this week as well. We need to kill all the black people in Oakland. All? MC Hammer? All? Dang. Bay Area mom, get you a can of sardines and take to the hills, man, because they might get serious. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564943. Pound, press star 61 if you would like to participate. I don't celebrate birthdays, and Fuller doesn't celebrate birthdays either, right? But we were told today, Rainey Lewis, her birthday is October 6th. I just reminded C.O.W.S listeners last week. Neely Fuller Jr.'s birthday, October 6th, 1929. In fact, I said he and George Stinney, their birthdays are 2 weeks apart. George Stinney was born on October 21, 1929, although he was fried in the electric chair at age 14, so he didn't get to evolve and become a counter-racist scientist like Mr. Fuller. But their birthdays just 14 days apart. And then, lo and behold, Renea Lewis and Mr. Fuller share the same birthday, October 6th. That was just this week. I think it was Monday Sunday. I think it was Sunday of this week. Monday, I had it right the first time. Monday of this week. Wacky. I don't know if that is important or not, but I might remember, especially if I pay attention to this case, if they bring that up about her birthday being, and then she was killed close to her birthday. Oh man, that might be something that I will remember, because I suspect that'll come up during the trial and all that good stuff. That, yeah, codification. Anyway. Folks have commentary to share. That would be another case if you have young people. If you are a parent and you have children, even if they're older, maybe particularly if they are older, going off to college, maybe they just started school or what have you, that sort of thing, thinking they're grown, show them some of these cases that, oh man, that hopefully you've had a whole lifetime of talking to them about racism since they were a child, in the crib, maybe in the womb. So this will just be a continuation of that dialogue. And yes, the danger is real. This is why I've been talking to you all that time. Look at Renea Lewis. We don't even know what happened. She could have been out doing constructive things, and this savage, barbarian race soldier swingoed her. As I said, her family, I didn't hear them say that they think she was dating this fella. I heard them say, man, I think she had good sense. I don't think she would have went to no homeless encampment of her own volition. I think she might have been subdued, attacked, drugged already. What does it mean to be white? One more time. White people kill for fun. Just like the giraffe leg. Folks who dialed in, if you have commentary to share, lines should be open. Let's see. Lauren should be with us. We'll nab other folks, see if they have commentary to add.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. That first part, no, it wasn't the first part. The first one was about the African Growth and Opportunity Act that's been allowed to expire. They said they were having some off-the-record conversations, and I don't know. I think if white people wanted to extend that, they would have already done it. So, man, I don't know. I don't feel super hopeful for the non-white black people in Africa right now. I don't think Mark Rubio or Donald Trump or anyone else in that administration cares about non-white people. The Great Whites, the racism that was described, like all of the Asians need to go sit in the corner, or they were seated outside, and they were told when certain demographics come in, the employers are told to tell those patrons that they're at capacity. I thought it was so interesting because they said the Great White does not tolerate acts of discrimination at any of their locations. White people say very similar things when they get caught in these acts of racism. And also, I do think the Great White is racist. Even, if you just think about the actual shark, that is a pretty vicious animal when they encounter people, but they call them great whites. The black ones, they call them killer whales. They don't call the great whites killer whites or anything like that. That's interesting to me. When they were talking about the ultra-processed food in California, how it's going to be banned from the school lunches. Now, I might have misheard it, but it sounded like that person said they're going to come up with the first definition, the first ever definition for ultra-processed food. Now, I thought what I thought were non-white people, I don't know. It's a scientist in Brazil. His name is Carlos Monteiro. They did a paper like in 2019. It was ultra-processed foods, diet quality and health using the NOVA classification system. And it was Carlos Monteiro and 4 other people in Brazil, 2019. And they did have a definition. It was quite long, but they broke up the food into 4 different groups, the first one being like fruits and vegetables, things like that. Also like fungi, algae, just natural things, spring and tap water. Group 2 was substances obtained directly from group 1 foods, like vegetable oils, crushed from seeds, nuts or fruit, things like that, olives. Group 3, products made by adding salt, oil, sugar, or other group 2 ingredients to group 1 foods. And then group 4, that was the ultra-processed food, and it is a definition. Now, I don't know if I should read this definition. It's like 2 paragraphs long, but it does exist, and I gave you guys the paper name. Let's see. When they were talking about the Tennessee National Guard, it said that state troopers were working very closely along with ICE. And we just read something like that in the book club yesterday, in inadmissible evidence. So that really caught my attention. And it also was talking about how basically it's legal to racially profile, is the term they use. They can, ICE can effectively stop anyone who is brown. They can walk up to anyone and say, show me your papers. So, if you get stopped by ICE and you can't prove you're a citizen, which I don't really know how you do that without having your passport with you, and everyone that is a so-called citizen of the United States doesn't even have a passport. And even if you do have a passport, people can take it from you, then what? So, but the point, like, the non-white people now, are we supposed to all just carry the documents that we receive from white people that show our existence in this part of the world is somewhat approved. I mean, yeah, we're still eligible for mistreatment, but I guess they shouldn't take us to the detention/concentration camp right at that time. Yeah. Letitia James, she is a New York State Attorney General, so not a federal employee. Hakeem Jeffries, when he was talking about the shutdown, he said Republican leaders are burying their heads in the sand. That's a metaphor. So, I'm not really sure exactly what he meant by that, but if he was trying to imply that these white government officials, these representatives and senators don't know or understand the current conditions of people in this part of the world or the future conditions that are going to exist by the laws that they pass, I think that's inaccurate. They understand what's happening. The fire thing, the Joseph Vega, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but the lady was asking questions about it being circumstantial evidence and things like that, and she also pointed out that he wasn't charged with manslaughter. I think that's interesting. The albino affair, for some reason, I'm always happy to hear those. They were trying to get that photograph of a rare and special creature, just a beaver. I think there's a definite hesitance to call animals albino, even when they have albinoid characteristics, the same way they don't call white people albinos, even though they have albinoid characteristics. It'll be like, well, I have brown hair or black hair. I can't be an albino. Or, I think those things are interesting. In the Boston Globe, there was a article, and it was called Nearly 250 Patients at Top Massachusetts Hospitals Say They Were Abused by Renowned Doctor. Why wasn't he stopped sooner? This was October 2nd, and the doctor's name was Dr. Derek Todd. And, 250 people is a lot, and so it might be more than that, but it was a really long article, and, it seems like lots of people complained, but they didn't do anything about the complaints. And then finally, they decide they're going to start an investigation, and the investigation goes on for months. And they tell him, why they're investigating, he's not supposed to practice at this place and this place. And so he goes and starts practicing at another place, and he's able to sexually abuse 22 more patients while they're doing this fake investigation. Because I don't think anything comes from the investigation that the hospital does. But they did put some charges on him, but I don't think it was from the hospital investigation. It just really made me think a lot about Michael Swango. Some other articles in the New York Times I thought were interesting. One was who can afford 3 kids in New York City? And pretty much all the people in the article, they were white people, and they, it seemed like they made a lot of money. And, hey, they were saying we can't have any more than 2 kids, and they were talking about how much the child care was, and I was just, amazed that they could afford that. And it was also, maybe 2 years ago, I'm not sure the exact time frame, but people were talking about quiet quitting on NPR and in the news. And then, like in this last week, I saw an article about, it said, like, have you hugged your job lately? And it was talking about how people are trying to hang on to their jobs now, and the job market is so tight. And then there was another one called Would You Work 996? The hustle culture trend is taking hold in Silicon Valley, and 996 is apparently working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. That's a lot. Luigi Mangione, his lawyer, is trying to challenge the death penalty charge in his case. A white man broke into the Washington State Capitol, knocked over some statues, and set a fire. Yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Did they pelt him, the white man who broke into the Washington state capitol? Did they shoot him and, I don't know, get plastic bullets and nigger knockers and beat him down WTO style?
No, I don't think so.
Dang, what? Why have a nigger knocker? That's the time you're supposed to go to town. Like, you got some unruly miscreant and you damaging government property. Like, oh man, you're supposed to have all kinds of knots upside your head and ooh-wee. That's why I got my boots polished and gun loaded for some no-count rascal like you. And man, that would be. She said,
they said the vandalism did not appear to have been politically motivated, but he was in custody.
Oh, they did arrest him though. That's good. Man. End stage white supremacy, all of that sort of no count misconduct. I guess I would say it might be more of that for so-called Indigenous Peoples Day coming up on Monday. They had an article pointing out how a lot of those Columbus statues that have been toppled recently, white people have put all this time and energy into resurrecting them. They said some of them, they were beheaded and thrown in the waters. They fished them out, shined them back up, put a new head on them, and have been quietly resurrecting them in more obscure locations. That is a crafty white woman, white man, white child. In fact, I saw two different articles about that this week. One was about Columbus statues specifically, and the other was about the Confederate statues. And I said, man, white people did that whole whammy on us, and Dylan Roof shot up the church in South Carolina 2015, and they said, oh man, Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, that statue is coming down. They went and took all this, well, not all, but they took down a number of them. They just by the time we get Trump back in office second time, they'll be and forgot all about it. We'll put them all back up. Don't worry about it, Brother Nathan. We got you. We got you. We're going to put you back. You're going to be better than before. Why? And they got Brother Christopher as well. So only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace. Racist soldier said, touche. I don't know nothing about no Biggie Smalls. 1492. Them indigenous folks. We gonna put the whammy on them too. Anyway, I read that report in the New York Times about not having children is so expensive. Like, man, having one. Oh, it's crippling. It's crippling. The report about the ICE stop you because you're brown. I think that's one of the few times where I've not heard the normal tacky phrasing black and brown. They didn't say that. Stop you because you're brown. Where are your papers? I said, man, that sounds so plantational. And then if you don't have your papers, they take you to the concentration camp. Like, woo, man, just you're brown and you ain't got your papers. Yep. Wow. Like, is it 1492? Like, man, we ain't made no progress at all. Yes, I would carry my passport around as well. I guess I did carry my passport around while I was in Wisconsin because they don't let you fly without having your passport. So you got to have your papers. Invisible man, you got to have your white people, so you got to have them papers now. Yikes. Yeah, and hey, it might get to a point where it is black and brown people. You better have your papers when you out in public. I'm nigger. You better have your papers when you out in public. Yikes. Any hoodles. yes, the albino affairs, there does seem to be resistance. Well, I don't even know if it's resistance, but that is noteworthy about the leucism, because we talked about that before. And either way, they come down and say the exact same thing. If it's albino or if it's a leucistic beaver, either way, this is a mutation, and this little furry critter would not do well if we did not intervene and make rules, and you can't breathe on the pale beaver. We got to come out here, and it has been a blessed and fortunate experience that we got to see our little pale critter out here. He's normally shy, but he saw us. Hey, y'all pale like me, my pale brother, my sick white brother, and came out and let us, take pictures and all that. Like, come on. Come on. What does it mean to, and that was in Canada, I keep saying, that was in Ottawa. I'm not talking about no U.S. racism. Anywhere in the known universe, what does it mean to be white? Great white. Or the brown, I guess you got to have your papers. If you can go to great white too, you better have your papers, reservation, and correct shoes. Still gonna sit you in the corner. Let's see. Other folks, if you have commentary to share, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. That is wacky about the definition. I've seen that. It could be that they don't know, I guess, but I don't know. If you know about it, they should know about the paper from South America where they give a definition for ultra processed. Maybe they mean in a government context where we get to set a definition to outlaw food. Maybe that's what they mean. I'm not sure, but yeah, that is very important. That it sounds like they did an extensive job of detailing all of this and what we mean when we say ultra processed, and in a way that people can understand. Hey, that's make it easy. What do I give my child? What do I eat? Stay away from the tater chips. I'm pretty sure that's because that's add salt, see, and all the rest of it. So that's ultra processed. Stay away from the tater chips. Any hoodles. 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Tisha James, not a federal employee. Much obliged. And Swango does come up frequently. Very glad we got him in the book club. As what does it mean to be white? Glad we got that one in the book club as well. But he comes up in lots of different ways all the time, which I believe was said in the book. Why this is such an important case, because this problem is really bad and it's getting worse. White doctors, or I guess it could be white nurses, all kinds of white healthcare professionals and others, where they can lie and pretend to have credentials that they don't and wreak all sorts of havoc, criminal activities. And apparently they don't do that with people classified as white. Where are your papers? Where are your papers at? They don't do all that. And sometimes, even if they do get the papers, whoa, you a felon. You shouldn't, you're not even a doctor. Don't worry about it, Swingo. That sort of thing. Different world if you're classified as white under the system of white supremacy racism. Star 61, we'll give folks 5 minutes or so. They have other thoughts to share, news clips or counter-racist suggestions We started a brand new book yesterday while the Mariners continuing their historic playoff run. Gus T. debut session on inadmissible evidence where, yes, the federal authorities work with local authorities to suppress Negras, non-white people, victims of racism. Long history of this sort of behavior, much of this detailed in Kenneth O'Reilly's book, Racial Matters, the FBI's secret file on Black America from 1960 to 1972. Lots of information about that, you won't call it unjust networking, law enforcement agencies. Anyway, but that's what we were doing. And more to come. They gave details about COINTELPRO and tidbits about the history of it. I will say, in that book, authored by Evelyn Williams, Assata Shakur's aunt, she told us, she said that her parents didn't drink, whoopee. They told her and her sister about different events, acts of racism that happened in the area, and one of these apparently included an incident where black people, workers, were threatened. They were going to be castrated, sodomized. They dumped white paint on them and kicked them out of town. This happened in Cranberry, New Jersey. And I said, folks, if you have 5 minutes to see if you can find anything about, this event, because I've never heard of this, this would be grand to know. And we had listeners who took a moment to do some research. Now, we had some folks who said, hey, I was not exactly able to find a specific report on the Cranberry incident, but there are other incidents that are similar to this in the New Jersey area. And in fact, these might even be one and the same in terms of the events that are being discussed. So let's see. I'm going to see if I can pull this one up really quick. Yep. Okay, so this is not the exact article that the listener sent me, but they sent me the report that moved me to getting to this incident. So the book talks about an incident in Cranberry, Cranbury, New Jersey. There's no exact time given, just what I told you about. You'll be sodomized and castrated. Now get out of here, Negro. Yeah. Okay. Listener said she found the Pattonburg Massacre in Pattonburg, New Jersey. And man, they have newspaper articles that confirm that this happened, date, time, all the rest of it, which is kind of wild. Let's see. I don't know if I'll read the whole thing, but I'll share a little bit just because I thought it was important. This wasn't even mentioned when Evelyn Williams, she gives the family history in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. Importantly, she excludes the 1898 Wilmington Purge, and then she details the family moving north, New Jersey, Assata. She has the incident in New Jersey with the shooting, and New York, the family's great migration north to get away from racism, which is what she says explicitly. So this would be a part of that background. So this is from Harper's Weekly, October 12. Isn't that wild? Woof. Time is right and exact. Today, October 11. This is 1872, the Pattonburg Massacre. In the neighborhood of Pattonburg, the railroad now building from Easton to Perth Amboy is to run through Muscontuncon Mountain by tunnel, which will be a mile in length. Work is in progress in this tunnel at both ends. The approach to the tunnel from the east is by a deep cut on which gangs of laborers are now employed, some white and others black. The Negroes work in gangs separate from the whites and were quartered in log houses on the south side of the cut, the quarters of the whites being on the opposite side. Immediately at the village of Pattenburg, a half-mile from the tunnel, the road skirts a mill pond formed by a dam across the Mathakaway Creek. Here, some heavy rock cutting is required to be done, and other gangs of laborers, all whites, are employed. About a mile further east, on the farm of a Mrs. Carter, there is some heavy earthwork in progress, upon which several gangs of colored men have been employed who were quartered in shanties in that vicinity. In all, there were 150 Negroes, between 200 and 300 white laborers, mostly Irish, employed about the tunnel. On Saturday, September 21, the laborers were paid off and, retiring to their respective quarters, spent the evening in great jollity. I love that word, Jollity. I've even seen lynchings, and the cause given will be reckless jocularity. Don't snicker too loud. The white laborers appear to have drank a good deal of whiskey. Whether the niggers did is not known. Late in the evening, a party of the latter went to the village on a serenading expedition, and on their return fell in with a party of Irish laborers by whom they were violently assaulted. They succeeded in driving off their assailants and retired to their own quarters. The Negroes immediately collected reinforcements and, to the number of 15 or 20, advanced toward the scene of the first conflict. They were met near the same spot by a still larger party of Irishmen armed with pistols and clubs, and a sharp fight. Were discomfited, cut off from their quarters, and forced back to Mrs. Carter's farm. Here they obtained further help, and then endeavored to save the cabins of the first party, which had been already attacked by their assailants. The Irish, better armed and more numerous, fired upon them across a deep cut, and drove them off. The abandoned cabins were pillaged, and the money which the poor fellows had received the day before, and which was mostly deposited in satchels left in the quarters, was stolen. The Irishmen then fired the cabins and immediately got into a row among themselves, during which one of the number, named Coles, was killed and his body left near the cabins. Are you serious? What? What does it mean to be white? Continuing. During the night, the Irishmen collected reinforcements and next morning renewed the fight. By spreading the report that Coles had been murdered by Negroes, they roused their countrymen to the utmost frenzy, and a party of about 150 made an attack on the Negroes on Mrs. Carter's farm just at daybreak. Roused from sleep by the firing, the poor fellows fled in terror and confusion, closely pursued by the infuriated Irishmen. One of the Negroes, Dennis Powell, was shot and left dying by the road. A portion of the fugitives sought refuge in the outbuildings around Mrs. Carter's house, under the porch, and elsewhere about the premises. The Irish demanded admission to the house, and when the brave woman refused, she must have been white, they beat in the door. Just at that moment, a poor old Negro was discovered crouching under the porch. He was immediately shot, dragged out, and beaten to death with clubs. After searching the premises and finding no one, they retired. On their way back, they found Powell still alive, and falling upon him, beat out his brains with clubs and stones. How Walking Dead is that? Spying another figure, Oscar Bruce, in the act of climbing a fence, they shot him down, and then, jumping upon his prostrate form, stamped it and beat it with clubs until it was unrecognizable as the remains of a human being. This murder ended the bloody work. The butchers withdrew to their quarters and disbanded. The leaders of the mob fled to the disgrace of New Jersey. no determined effort was made by the authorities to arrest and punish the perpetrators of these horrible outrages. The inquests were held on the bodies of the murdered men, but the magistrates appear to be afraid to move vigorously, and the murderers are not only still at liberty, but seem likely to remain so. The Irish openly defy the sheriff, who dare not make his appearance among them. 5 days after the massacre, Governor Parker offered the paltry sum of $500 reward for the arrest and conviction of the murderers, but meanwhile the opportunity passed, as 3 colored fugitives from the massacre have been arrested, while the main body of their assailants remain at large. It is reasonable to conclude that nothing but the pressure of public opinion will compel the authorities of New Jersey to do anything toward bringing to justice the authors of this horrible outrage. This is in Harper's Weekly, 1872, October 12, and they do have pictures of the murder of George Powell and the murder of the older black male whose brains were stomped out at Mrs. Carter's house. They have, well, I won't say pictures, they have illustrations. And even they have illustrations. What did it say? The sick white brother who is charged with starting the Palisades fire. They have pictures of them lighting the Negro shanties ablaze as well. White culture. That's about 150-year span of time, and you see the exact same behavior. And they get in a brawl amongst themselves. Race soldier kill one of their own. Susan Smith, Jesse Anderson, kill one of their, the Negro, we gotta go, and this is them dividing the loot, the booty, if you will. We done robbed these poor Negroes 5 nickels, and we get to fighting amongst it. Wait a minute, that's my 10 cents. You don't take my 10 cents. Wait a minute. No, you get it back. No, then blame it on Saint 150 years. Paul Mooney say 1-800 blame a Negro. 150 years. What does it mean to be white? And white people and alcohol, that's way more than 150 years. I mean, how much time do we have? But one of the worst combinations in the known universe. You talk about danger, whole town could be burned down. It was in Harper's Weekly. White people and alcohol. Oh, man. That's why I say, let the Seahawks, I think, are they playing here tomorrow? And see, I'm like, oh, Lord, don't go downtown. Once that championship series starts, let me get the whole schedule so I know in advance. Don't go downtown. We already got enough violence at Garfield High School. Don't need to go downtown and see thousands of drunk white people. Euphoria because we won. Outraged because we lost. Either way, you got a little too much liquor in your system. I don't need to be around you. I need to keep my brains in my skull. Pattenberg massacre. I'll say the same thing. If folks have extra 5 minutes, you can research and see Cranberry, New Jersey. Did they have some sort of massacre, riot, racial unrest? And then the Pattenberg massacre, it seems pretty definitive that this happened because they have this in white people's newspapers, and I've seen multiple accounts of this. So, yeah, people want to check. I know we got people who got connections to New Jersey, Paul Robeson. Do a little research, see what you can find. Maybe they have whole books written about this specific incident. I mean, non-fiction. I'm aware they have fiction books, but maybe they have some non-fiction books written about this event as well. Anyway, we'll assume folks are satisfied for the day. Didn't see any other hands. Did I miss anybody? Any folks have anything they want to make sure they get in before we wrap things up? Rand, we will be here for the book club on Friday, Neutralizing Workplace Racism on Thursday. Just check the schedule, and we'll have other broadcasts and such. Check social media. We'll post, let people know in advance. Much obliged. Hopefully the cows worthy of your time and energy. If you, I guess, are going to be off for the so-called holiday Monday for people in the States, I don't reckon they celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day. I don't reckon in Brazil. I don't reckon. Mexico. I don't reckon. But for people here at least, if you don't have to work Monday, use that time constructively. Hey, all about correct sleep. Maybe we were talking about ultra-processed foods. Maybe you could cook Sunday and maybe Monday, and then you'll have lots of leftovers. So no ultra-processed foods this week. We can go in autumn. You can even grocery shop. You could even do a twofer. You could get your groceries and goodies on Sunday and then cook Monday. So you have lots of food. Bam. Especially if you have children. Oh man. Lots of food. No ultra processed foods. We will get healthy victuals. You could make soup. You could do roasted vegetables. That's always so easy and tasty. You do roasted squash. That's in season right now. You could still do smoothies. Pomegranates just came in season. Blueberries are about to trail off, but you can still probably get fresh blueberries too. But pomegranates, like especially if you're in California, like, oh man, season just I had the best pomegranates in my life in California, and they're super cheap because they're so plentiful. They grow right there, and it's their season right now. So you could, if you're in those places, you go to the farmer's market, get pomegranates, eat them fresh, find some, make a smoothie. No ultra-processed foods, and if you have that time off, use that time and energy. I will bond with healthy victuals. Me and my attempted offspring, me and my attempted family, eat some healthy food. They can be feeling good as the daylight hours wane, sunlight wanes. Still get our exercise, nourish our bodies. That is Counter Racism 101. Not high fructose corn syrup, processed foods, Popeye's chicken. Man, any hoodles. Much obliged for folks tuning in. Hopefully worthy of your time and energy. I will say quickly as well, it's in the archives. Dr. Uche Blackstock, she came through Seattle to chat about her book, The System of White Supremacy and Health, healthcare profession, really, medical apartheid, Harriet A. Washington. It was important. There was a white woman, I think, I didn't ask, she didn't concede, but she asked a question, and she said that there are too many doctors. That's what she said. I think there was a black doctor, spirit of Dr. Welsing, and many other black physicians who've shown black self-respect. That would include Frantz Fanon and many others. But she stood up, and it's in the archives, all recorded. She said, contraire, my sick white sister, there are too many white doctors. We certainly do not have too many black male doctors, black female doctors, even the black and brown doctors. No, we do not have too many of those doctors. We have too many white doctors. That's one of those. We can't be pussyfooting. It is so important. The problem is white people. We are not going to be able to get around that. Or no, you can't. The problem is white people. We're going to have to be very honest about that to solve this here problem. But I will say, hey, white people make it more flagrant that they are the problem. White genetic annihilation, end stage white supremacy. Oh, they might make a Peyton Gendron, Donald Trump. Oh, they're going to make it flagrant. My white brother who set California on fire, Jonathan Rinderneck. Like, what kind of name is that? Is that German? What is that? We got people that do etymology of surnames. Rinderneck, Rindernecht. Rindernecht. Is that? I might not even be saying it right. Jonathan Rinderneck. I didn't burn down California, then bragged about yeah. Went on the chat, yeah. Dystopian California, yeah, I did, yeah. End stage white. So, as a matter of fact, I think Dill and Reb talked about that. They talked about burning down. Yes, they did, because they were going to burn the school down. I totally forgot about that. We just read that 2023. They were going to burn the whole school down, and they had started fires throughout the Littleton area. It wasn't even just the school. They want to try and burn the whole town down because they had misdirected the fire department. They like, whoa, we got all these conflagrations. What's going on? They were racist too. The Chat GPT told me that 2 years ago. In fact, didn't even say they were racist. Yep, they white supremacists, Gus T. Then you see they were reading about Adolf Hitler. You slow, you lame. What kind of nigger is you? I said, dang, wait a minute. What does it mean to be white, Jonathan? Yeah, what is that? What is that? Is that German? Is that what? Jonathan Rinderneck. Should have had him on the terrorist watch list too, man. You got all that interagency cooperation. Was that Lauren?
Yeah, it's German. It's an occupational name for a cowhand, a male cowhand.
An occupational name for a male? Of course, it's a cowhand. That is fascinating. Rindernecht. I'm going to have to do some more checking on, and this, what's even more important, to do some more checking on this white fellow in his 20s. Like, who is this dude? Because they said he was living in California at the time, but then he moved to Florida down there with firefighters. So, but yeah, people have research about who is this dude? Like, what? Try to blame it on music? Say he was. What does it mean from the raping the children, burning the whole city down, all of it? Below darts. What does it mean to be white? Blow darts. Come on, man. Where would you even get a blow dart gun from? Blow darts. Come on. Sobriety would be best. Evelyn Williams told us that her parents were frugal. They lived through the Depression just like Neely Fuller Jr. did, and as a result, they didn't waste no nickels. They'd be ready for the shutdown, save. And they said a part of their saving, a part of how they were able to remain so frugal, they didn't waste money on Mad Dog 2020 and malt liquor. We should emulate. That said, Creator, we ask that you help us or remind us. Stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us. Stop name calling people classified as black. Remind us to maximize our time and energy to replace white supremacy with justice. No wasting non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. Whew. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.